I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Generally, you said feminism is
neutral. Here's what actually happened.
This is the foundation of all knowledge.
Money. I'm really mad that
what difference does it make, right? What
Stop. Stop.
the deregulation of the industry is obviously going to cause more of that industry.
To lubricate the trust connection between people until they have enough.
Yet we could still look at biological reality in determining who's a female, even if there are.
Why don't you denounce feminism the same way you're denouncing capitalism? If you don't...
For something to be objective, it needs to be verifiable. And you can't verify...
If I make a claim as a political pundit, it is true that I definitely could be wrong.
Yeah,
you're promoting, right?
Ideologies that make that politics, right? This is my ideology.
Yeah, but...
So, 2015, anyone go back and watch the footage? The first GOP debate...
Robert. Oh, that? With a crowbar, you said?
And good evening and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I am Sara, the Raging Tomato, here bringing to you live another debate. This evening, I have with me Vybe from Vybe on YouTube and Tareyak, of course. They are both live streaming. Feel free to head over to their direction, send some love, super chats, subscribe, share, all of the fun things. Sharing is caring. The topic of the evening is there is no deep state. Vybe, you have the opening statement if you'd like to go ahead.
All right. So let's start with a question. If a thing can't be named, can't be quoted, can't be shown, and somehow controls everything, is that governance? Or is that just a ghost story with better PR? I'm going to take the affirmative on a simple claim. There is no deep state. Not no bureaucracy, not no secrecy, not no bad decisions. I'm denying a very specific idea. A coordinated, clandestine, durable cabal inside, around global governments that operate independently of elected authority and runs policies from the shadows. That's the creature on the table. Let's actually look at it. Now, where did the phrase come from? The term deep state comes from Turkey. Darren Devlet. Real scandals, real paramilitaries, real criminal ties. That's the architect. Hidden networks with off-books money and muscle. When people today say deep state, that is the picture they're borrowing from. But borrowing a label isn't the same as importing facts. Before we chase villains, let me make 3 quick points to the chat, to the judges, and honestly to ourselves. My first point, I will not deny reality. Governments do covert things. Witch hunts happen. Corruption exists. Organized crimes exist. Secret groups exist. I'm not allergic to facts. I'm allergic to bad intentions. My second point, I'll define a test. If you want to use the grown-up world deep state, the example has to pass 3 things: coordination, clandestiny, and independence over time. Coordination is a real, identifiable body or network that issues across agencies and across directives. Clandestiny is secret or illegal methods beyond lawful authority, and independence over time means it's durable, the ability to override elected leadership over time and time again. Miss any one of these, and you've got ordinary politics, sometimes messy, sometimes ugly, but it's not a deep state. And my third point, I'll offer a better explanation. Because if we're going to interpret the world, let's use a model that actually explains more with fewer exceptions, because exceptions are what Tareyak has. So what actually exists? Millions of unelected people work in and around global governments. They're civil servants, militaries, contractors. That's a really big machine, and it's really boring and often at war with itself. The part you see is the laws, the hearings, the budgets, and the parts you don't see, process, expertise, and classification. It's not a single orchestra. It's every middle school band member playing at the exact same time. And yes, I know we've all seen James Bond movies, Mission Impossible movies, Triple X, Fast and Furious. Movies are tidy. There's always one mastermind, one lever, one plan. But notice what never happens in these films. Inspector generals, parliaments, information access laws, budget riders, court injunctions, HR projections, everything that makes reality annoying and democracy functional. If we don't believe in a hero cabal saving the world like James Bond, then why are we so eager to canonize a secret villain cabal running it? Let me build the affirmative case plainly. Contention 1. Complexity plus incentives explain the mystery better than conspiracy. Modern states delegate. Long-lived agencies develop expertise and norms. They also generate friction with short-term political leadership. That friction, those slow rolls, dissent, leaks, feel like sabotage. But it's exactly what you would expect when millions of actors with different incentives share one machine. Bureaucratic politics does not equal shadow government. What looks like a conspiracy is just often complexity doing what complexity does. My second contention, our guardrails are visible. Legal is noisy. The opposite of hidden sovereignty. Across countries, we have courts, legislators, auditors, inspectors, whistleblowers, statutes, freedom of information regimes, and press that leaks constantly. Abuses are investigated and curtailed in daylight. That is not what a successful secret regime looks like. If a cabal truly ruled, the first casualty would be oversight, not their feelings. My next contention 3, elected leaders can do rewrite the machine. Proof against independent government hires, firing, resigning, change of rules, shift in budgets. Recognize agencies and replace watchdogs. Sometimes you cheer for the changes, sometimes you hate them, but the ability to make them prove the system is not ruled by an untouchable inner ring. If you're supposed to be deep state, can you fire somebody by email? That's not sovereign. It's a workplace. And my last contention, the deep state thesis is unfalsifiable. Ask for names, mechanisms, enforcement. An answer is too often. It's so good, you can't prove it. That's not a theory. That's a fog machine. Any claim that cannot be wrong cannot be weighed. Meanwhile, the simpler model, laws, incentives, institutions, explain the same data with fewer assumptions and make testable predictions. Slow processes, public oversight bursts, policy lags, personal churn. That's exactly what we see. Now, I know what Tareyak loves to reach for, so let's debunk his greatest hits, as he would say, if you know what I'm saying. Cold War covert actions in various countries, awful or not, these were government policies. Political principles authorize them. Condemn the choices if you wish. That doesn't conjure a separate sovereign. Operation Paperclip and the Gelin organization. Ugly, time-bound, though. Expedience and chaos after World War II. Publicly debated then, publicly documented now. That is not permanent inner power. Gladio and Stay Behind networks. These were real Cold War programs. The leap from real program to cross-national false flags empire is evident. This evidence is where it thins. Show me a present-day command chain where membership directives and enforcement power across countries, or admit that it fails the test. captured media, Mockingbird, MK Ultra. MK Ultra was real abuse, and it was investigated, reported, and curtailed. If total capture existed, the leaks wouldn't. If the cabal runs the press should stop running the cabal's secrets. Yet it doesn't. Bilderberg, Davos, IMS, BMIS. These convene. They don't command. They publish rosters, charters, and voting shares. Elites talk. Of course they do. Talking is not a coup. At this point, you might ask, what does count as the deep state? Which is a great question. So let me make the standard explicit again. There's no slippery goalpost tonight. It has to have coordination. Name the present day coordinating bodies, not the bureaucracy, not the they, who sits where, how do their orders move, clandestinity. Produce verifiable cross-agency illegal directives at scale, not vibes, but documents. Independence over time, and this is really important. Show one case where elected leadership couldn't fire, defund, restructure, or legislate to change the outcomes, and the cabal stopped them. If you can't meet these three, then you don't have a deep state. You have politics, untidy, public, meandering politics. Let me ask an obvious rhetorical question. We should all be asking it. If a hidden empire truly runs the show, why does it leak consistently? Why do inspector generals and auditors publish scorching reports? Why do courts block executive actions? Why do budgets get overwritten? Agencies reshape. Watchdogs are replaced. Why do secret sovereigns lose firefights in broad daylight to judges with a gavel and a PDF file? I get why the state story is so tempting. It's emotionally satisfying. It turns every disappointment into a plot and every opponent into a puppet. But if you can't show one conspiracy theory that fits all three of these criteria, then you do not have a deep state.
Thank you, Vybe. And Tareyak, to you, please.
Yeah, so first of all, hail Prometheus. And yeah, I kind of figured that I was going to have to do a bit of a meta-analysis on the debate in the opening. The first, the Vybe basically just kind of straw man my whole argument. Also saying stuff like I don't want Vybe, but he calls himself Vybe. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't make a lot of sense. But like the whole straw man he's doing here is like the deep state must control the world. They must be this cabal or whatever. Do you know what I mean? That's I reject that definition of the deep state wholeheartedly. But also I just want to define a couple of things before we get in meat and potatoes. So first of all, I'm going to define what an argument of incongruity is. It's basically an argument that's a logical fallacy that asserts a proposition must be false because it contradicts one's own personal expectations or beliefs or is difficult to imagine. An example of this was the infamous Aphrodite debate where Millennium Mike just said, that's impossible. That will never happen. That's not an argument. Vybe's not allowed to do that, chat, okay? He's committing a logical fallacy if he does that. I also wanted to find gaslighting, just in case Vybe tries to go down that avenue and tries to brush any of the stuff I'm about to discuss off as like, oh, that's just conspiracy, that never happened. All the stuff, including MK Ultra, did happen. And then I just want to discuss as well the burden of proof, okay? If you feel as though it's more likely than not that there's a deep state, then you must acquit. You know what I'm saying? If the glove don't fit, you must acquit. We learned that from OJ. So, first of all, I want to provide my definition of the deep state. So the term deep state refers to an alleged secret network of unelected government officials, intelligence agencies, military personnel, and sometimes private entities such as those in defense or financial industries. Hypothetically speaking, Lockheed Martin would be an example of that. That operate independently of elected leadership to influence, manipulate, or enact policy in pursuit of their own agendas and goals. Right? This concept often implies a shadowy coalition that prioritizes institutional power, continuity, and self-interest over democratic processes or public accountability. And the key word there is accountability. You know what I mean? And one of the criteria apparently that Vybe's supposed to say is that like I have to name names. But the whole point of a deep state is that there's this shadow government and all these like corporations, I guess you could call them, but like just basically alphabet agencies. FBI, CIA, 123, ABC. And that's how they escape accountability. So just to give you the timeline, okay? And this is what I call the sacred timeline. So post World War II, there was Operation Paperclip. This was a secret program that recruited over 1,600 former Yahtzee scientists, engineers, and technicians. Also, like all scientists, behavioral scientists, etc., and that'll come up in a second. With the key thing with the behavioral scientist, because a lot of the engineers and all that went over to NASA for the rocket technology and surveillance that they can do with the orbit and all this kind of stuff for NASA. But in terms of behavioral sciences, they went into the CIA for this goal of, if we can control your behavior, we can control your mind, then we don't need to go to war with you. We can control you, essentially. After that, so after Paperclip finishes, then you get the National Security Act of 1947. This is legislation signed by President Truman that restructured the U.S. Defense and Intelligence, creating the Central Intelligence Agencies, National Security Council, and Department of Defense, centralizing power in unelected bureaucratic structures. This act formalized the deep state by establishing secretive agencies with broad mandates for covert operations, free from direct congressional or public accountability. It allegedly enabled the growth of permanent intelligence apparatus that could operate independently, laying out the groundwork for later programs like MKUltra and influencing policy without elected input. Then in the 1950s, we have Operation Bluebird, which then became MKUltra in the 70s. This was a CIA program involving illegal human experimentation with drugs, for example, LSD and mescaline, which was the same experiments that the Yahtzees were doing in Germany. So they just continued to research and done it on children and done it on unwilling US citizens. By the way, that's the whoopsie that Vybe's saying. It's like, oh, that's just bad policy, I guess. But they also use hypnosis, psychological torture to develop mind control techniques for interrogation and assassination. Bluebird focused on behavioral modification. It evolved into the larger MKUltra, which included unwitting subjects and was exposed in the 1970s. And the reason why he got exposed, Vybe, is because Charlie Manson went on a rampage in Hollywood, didn't he? And this is the whole thing of like, oh, like we have this enforcement mechanism. It's no, you have an explosion like Charlie Manson that comes out, and everyone's like, where the fuck did this come from? And then basically all this content comes out. And then when we look at like, okay, the structure of America, the president is the most powerful man in the world. That's what we're told. The president's the most powerful man in the world. Okay, in the 1960s, why did Eisenhower come out with the military-industrial complex speech? In his farewell address, President Dwight D. Eisenhower warned the unwarranted influence of growing alliance between the military establishment and defense industries, urging vigilance to prevent it from endangering liberties of the democratic process. This is your own president in the 60s saying this, Vybe. And then later that year, we had JFK give the secret society speech. And again, in the address to newspaper publishers, President John F. Kennedy spoke of a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy relying on covert means, infiltration, and secrecy, calling for greater press scrutiny of such threats amid Cold War tensions. And like I said, this is with the whole MKUltras going on, etc., etc. And then we have a couple of years later, we had the JFK assassination, and then 5 years after that, we had his brother RFK getting assassinated. So in terms of this whole like deep state conspiracy, all this kind of stuff, okay, Vybe, if you can answer this one simple question, then I guess I'd have to concede the debate. Who's orchestrating all this structure? Who sanctioned MKUltra? Did we vote on MKUltra? That's the main question of the debate here. If you can answer that question, Vybe, then 100%. But I don't think you can, and with that, I can see the rest of my time.
Thank you, Tareyak. And as a kind reminder to everyone in the audience, we will get through our debate, then we will move into closing statements. We will read and respond to your kind super chats, and then, of course, your favorite part of the evening, we will move into open panel dumpster fire. Gentlemen, I leave the floor open to you.
All right. So, in my opening, I conceded to MKUltra happening. I knew you'd bring that up. Figured that'd be one of your favorite topics. But let's go back to the definition of deep state, right? So we have to look at why even use the word deep state if deep state is not something that it is deep, right? It's the whole idea of deep state is that they're controlling things that happened or are happening without our knowledge, right? And therefore, I'd actually contest that MKUltra wasn't deep state. That was just the government being stupid. Would you contest
So you're
that?
just going to claim ignorance?
No. Okay, let's back it up a little bit then, because we got to get to the definition here. Ultimately, it's going to be about that. So, if a government, let's say our government today, actually, let's make it really easy. Power is part of the deep state, right? Unelected power. Would you agree?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we have unelected power. That's one. Two, they do things in secret without authority of our voting capability, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So that would be the U.S. military. The most powerful organization in the world does secret operatives, and everybody in the military is unelected.
Yeah, but the
So
president
you're
is the
saying
head.
that
One sec.
the French military and the UK military are all deep state.
Let him answer.
Yeah, so the
premise?
president is the commander in chief, so he's the head of the military.
But do you think they're doing things in secret? And are they unelected?
If there was a group in the military that were deliberately sought to what would be the word rebel against whatever Trump's commandment was in terms of the military, then yes, that would be treason, correct? You'd be acting against the president, correct?
Yeah, but do you think the president knows every secret operative that's happening, or do you think he approves and Congress approves certain actions which are secret outside of the voters? And this is the most powerful. And it doesn't even have to be ours. I mean, the UK has a really powerful military. The French have a really powerful military. Yeah. They're all doing secret ops, and they're not doing it because they're hiding it, right? If we let let our enemy know what we're doing and expose it to the public, no, that's a bad thing, right?
Yeah, Vybe, what I'm pointing out is that you were saying it's like the ultimate thing is power. So it's like when you look at the president, he should hold ultimate power over the military. So now the question, because you were saying, okay, show me modern, you have to show me like throughout history. And like I said, that's why I've done the history in terms of the modern day example. When the FBI suppressed the Hunter Biden story, who issued that commandment?
Well, but this is my thing, right? Like, so if we have a secret group doing something and they don't,
we have no accountability.
I would say that is a deep state, right? But every scenario you're bringing up, we're catching, right? Like our government oversight shows it. What I'm saying, what you're saying, so we're basically defining two things exactly the same. I laid out what a deep state is, and this is the modern terminology of deep state. This is what people talk about when they're talking about deep state. What you're saying is your definition of deep state is basically government politics. This is the way government works, and I call it deep state because when the state messes up and we catch them, then we call it deep state.
No, because if you were to look at the facts of that case, objectively speaking, there is no way that should have been suppressed. There's no way that should have been suppressed. But somehow there was a message sent out or infiltrated into your own FBI, into your own intel community or secret service, whatever way you want to call it, that specifically influenced your election to suppress that story. And like to the degree of it went to private companies and said, you are not running this story. And they did not run the story. This is what the Twitter files was over. This is what all this kind of shit that came over. And we wouldn't have found out about this. Mark Zuckerberg wouldn't have been talking about this unless Elon Musk bought X.
But this isn't okay. So let's look at it this way. People think that Elon Musk, right? Very rich man, probably has this little secret group, and he probably does, to be honest, of people that advisors and people that he influences, and he probably puts money into certain groups that actually influence the government, and he's making these decisions to profit for himself only. So he's got his own, in any other terms, his own deep state, but it's not really a deep state because it's not a global group running everything, right? It's not actually so deep that he's controlling everything because there's somebody else and another entrepreneur that actually is looking against him. He's running his own little secret group. Even JFK, you pointed to, he had advisors. Like when we had the Cuban Missile Crisis, instead of actually sitting there at the Capitol, he went and he met with the OSS group, right? Which were like, and you can say this is a conspiracy too. He met with people that he trusted. These were people of the press, movie stars, and other political people, all with influence, and they were his personal advisors. None of these point to what, I guess you know what I'm really having a problem with? You don't think there's a deep state. You actually agree that it's all just politics. Or do you think Elon Musk has his own little group running
I don't believe I said that, but like I said, I was anticipating a lot of fallacies. But yeah, go ahead.
Well, it's not a fallacy. I mean, what is the difference between normal politics and a deep state?
Yeah, so like I read out the definition again.
I mean, the military is already not public or is not elected. They already do private things. Those were your two contentions. My contention was that there's one group running this and controlling the world. I've heard you talk about this before.
Yeah, you know but like what I'm specifically talking about is unelected government officials, intelligence agencies, military personnel, and sometimes private entities, such as defense or financial industries,
which is politics.
Yeah, and like this whole no, like this whole thing of like having a covert agency and having like secret ops. It's like this is what I've run down before. I think this is what you're talking about. It's like where I say, do you want to win wars? Yes. The only way to win wars is to have the best covert operations. Which is like, yes, okay, we agree to that, which means by definition you have to then accept that the government's going to lie to you, that what the government puts in front of you is going to be an illusion. But that would mean by necessity you would have the deep state. If you ever watch Rick and Morty, it was the whole thing of like they have the presidential candidate and then they go into the back room and then there's like the council and there's like basically a representative from all across the world.
But where is the deep state? How is that not just politics?
What you mean? How's that? Okay, like so, what would you define as politics then?
You just admitted, you said to have the best military, you have to have covert options or operations. You have to do these things. You have to send troops in, right? To have the best military.
Yeah.
And
if you want to win wars, you have to have a deep state. Yeah.
But how? Okay, this is where you keep on losing me. That's how government works. How are you adding deep state
that's how covert ops work.
This is where I'm going. Is that my whole idea here is there's no deep state. Just people like you randomly throw in ideas that deep state, which throws fear on top of it, right? There is no deep state because it doesn't apply to normal politics. And by your own admission, when you said I strongmanned you, I didn't strongman you. I actually laid out what deep state was, and you removed some of the most important pieces of what actually the definition of deep state is. If you look it up on Wikipedia, and Webster's, and all these things of what the modern definition is, you basically excluded this. So now you can say that normal politics, even when politics screws up, even when there is a rogue agency inside the CIA screws up, that's now deep state. But what I'm saying is when those things happen and those conspiracies, which sometimes are true, that you call out are not deep state. They're flaws in our system and our politics catch them. And you slap this word deep state on it. And now you're telling me it doesn't, you're telling me, oh, well, regular politics is deep state. It's not.
No, what I'd say is there's a deep state in modern politics. Yes. Like, and I would say ever since like the World War II. Because like the key word that you're missing, Vybe, is the element of like, it's an unelected, like it's subverting democracy. What the FBI done? One sec. What the FBI done? What? One sec, Vybe. Like what you need to explain is the FBI done something undemocratic, and they knew what they were doing was wrong, and they still done it anyway. Number one question: where did that command? Who has that command? Where's the public accountability for that wrong call? And number two, where's the democratic process here?
Well, I mean,
because you're literally acting against a current president. You're influencing an election against the current president.
And I conceded to that 100% in my opening statement. I'm not going to say there's not corruption, that there's not rogue agents, there's not people, bad actors out there, but we have a system in place that catches them. Otherwise, you wouldn't even be here telling me and explaining all these bad things that we did. We have agencies that oversee this and see it. The deep state would be a group that actually exists without actually getting caught.
Why?
Because otherwise it's just politics as normal. Okay, so let me lay this out for you really simple. If we don't count Lockheed Martin and space agencies and all these organizations that are not affiliated with the government, we have 2 million just in the United States. We have 2 million federal employees, all unelected. Right now, if you actually add in the contractors and you add in all these affiliates and NASA and Lockheed Martin and things like that, now we're actually getting into like almost 10 million, 20 million. I don't know. I actually have to look up the number. Maybe chat can let us know. But we're talking about a lot of people that are working for the government. Now, can you control, let's just exclude all the external agencies. Can you control a postal worker from not like murdering a bunch of people? Is he deep state when he goes against the president? Is the president accountable for that federal unelected employee? And
No,
was he working for the deep state when he goes crazy and like murders a family because he's a postal worker?
Yeah, so we know we can hold that person accountable.
Yes,
because we know what it is. But when we're talking about like these rogue
people accountable, like
one second, real quick, one second. When we talk about an agency that has the power to subvert an election, that's what they done. And like again, Trump is there doing like the Neo dance from Matrix with bullets, like third assassination attempt already. You know what I mean? And like we're all just acting as if this is normal behavior and all this kind of shit. You know what I mean? And it's like it's not normal. You know what I mean? And like I said, the reason why all this one second. The reason why all this abnormal behavior is happening is because you have this rogue element that President Eisenhower was saying, the military-industrial complex. What JFK was saying is like there's too much of this secret societies going on, and this thing is going to implode essentially. And like the best way of describing it, Vybe, because like I think you're putting like you need to look at it as like amoral. It's neither immoral or moral, because like you could say it's like without the CIA, like 10 times worse shit would be going on if it wasn't if they didn't do the fucked up shit that they were doing. You know what I mean? So in terms of the whole morality argument, it's like we can throw that to the side or put that to the side at the moment. Best way to describe it is, if you ever watched the Marvel universe, particularly the Loki TV series, the TVA. You know what that is? You ever watch Marvel?
Time travel something?
Yeah, the was a time variant, or whatever the fuck. Do you know what I mean? It's like Owen Wilson plays the character and all this kind of shit. It's like that's basically what the CIA is. It's like a lot of people just working in offices. That's a huge bulk of their thing is literally just information, like an IT department, all this kind of shit. I get that shit, but in terms of the actual like the plans, plots, all this kind of shit, it's like their typical weapon, what they use, and what the whole documentation from the USA shit has revealed is that the CIA was using that as a way to just influence foreign elections. So like the CIA is technically a deep state within all these like European states and all this kind of shit. Because they need to make sure that they get their pro-Western friendly, particularly in the likes of Ukraine or any of these countries that are on border and territories to someone who's not Western friendly. So this is what I'm talking about, this whole thing of technically what they're doing is fucked up, but if they didn't do that, then more fucked up shit would happen.
Yeah, I'll concede that the CIA has definitely influenced elections in other countries. We try to prop up leaders that will be more friendly to our country, and ultimately, I hope that our country is trying to, but not all the time.
Hold on, let him finish. He let you finish.
Yeah,
not all the time. Actually, looking at the interests of the people. I can also concede, by the way, that the CIA did a lot of bad things in South America in the 80s with covert operatives that were not good. And part of my argument against that there is no deep state is that we know about all of them. And I can actually say bad. We did a lot of bad things. I can look at other countries that have done similar things and say bad. Almost the majority of the bad things we've done have been exposed, and we've seen maybe. And by the way, in the 80s, they did have approval. There were many politicians going, I don't want to know what you're doing, but as long as this is stopping, don't tell me about it. Now, this is actually government oversight. This is not a deep state. This is not some secret crew going, this is how we want to move everything. This is the leader politicians going, don't tell me, just keep on telling me that it's good results, right? I concede that happens, but I don't think it's a deep state.
Yeah, so let me say it this way. Would you concede that the CIA is both like it's not a democratically elected organization and that it subverts democracy? Would you agree to that?
As much as I would our Air Force and our Marines and our Army, yeah, and our postal workers, and yeah, I'll concede that.
No, postal workers aren't subverting democracy.
There are 2 million unelected officials working for the United States.
Yeah, but postal workers aren't subverting democracy.
Huh?
But the postal workers aren't subverting democracy.
Well, I mean, in a sense, they are the freedom to write your grandma.
But how it like in
Okay,
well,
leave
one
the
could say the
postal workers
2020
out. If you have a
election.
problem
One
with
could
that.
say 2020
Let's talk about
election
the
they could have been used.
unelected,
You know,
Air Force crew.
yeah, but we're like that. Like that's just the point I'm talking about. That like we agree the CIA subverts democracy abroad and the FBI acts locally, and then like I point towards the 2020 election where the Hunter Biden story was deliberately suppressed, even though the evidence was clear. You know what I mean?
Once the postmaster general is appointed by the president, he can do whatever he wants for 4 years. He has no responsibility to democracy. The president does, and then obviously with everybody he elects the next year, if that doesn't work out, and maybe if the postmaster does a horrible job, but he does a great job in the military, everybody will ignore the postmaster failing that year or those 4 years. But it's still in the end, and this is my long-lived over multiple presidencies. Can a group in the government anywhere, and I wasn't even going just the United States, I took this globally. Can a group globally maintain control of the government without the elected government? Right now, you could point to the CIA, and there have been points with JFK and the CIA director at the time saying that he had dirt on him, and then when he was killed, actually that guy was fired, which just goes against that proof that the CIA actually was 100% like controlling everything, and even the presidents. I think the whole idea of a deep state is when somebody outside, and I think it's here's the Fisher-Price version of a deep state. When people outside the elected officials are actually controlling the elected officials. Now, elected officials will appoint people that do things that they aren't allowed to do, and they get caught. But the deep state is when people outside of the elected officials are actually controlling the elected officials.
Yeah, so
That's
like when Trump was like, during the 2020 to 2024, Trump was like, yeah, release the list. And then as soon as he got in office, he was like, what list? Like that level of control?
Is it permanent control? Is he going to get caught? I don't know. Or is it going to come out?
Shifting the goalpost.
I don't think
that's still control over the officials inside the thing. Because like I said,
he is an elected official.
One sec.
Actually, who's shifting the two conditions? I'll let you finish.
Yeah, like the two conditions that I'm countering with is that like a deep state or deep state shit, what I'd point to as deep state shit, would be stuff that's undemocratically elected, or like subverts democracy, and it's unelected. It's like working against the country. That's like deep state shit.
And then you're specifically pointing out somebody that was democratically elected.
No, what I'm saying is that someone is controlling him clearly.
Oh, okay. This is good. So somebody is controlling Donald Trump clearly.
Yes.
Okay, so
with the example again, where he was like, Ruru was like, release the list. As soon as he got in the office, and then in the office, he's like, what list? Motherfucker still talking about list? What list? Where did I lose that list? Where the fuck's that list? Do you have that list, Vybe?
Okay, so is that a feeling, or can you actually put together your map, your little cork board with pictures and red lines, drawing all the pictures together here, saying that he is being controlled. Okay. So give me the evidence that he's being controlled.
I'll go DJ Khaled on you. And another one. Why is Ted Cruz talking about Israel as a greatest ally? Is that influence? Is that control? Is Ted Cruz controlled?
I don't even understand the relevancy.
You're asking for private industries having influence on the governed officials, and I'm giving you multiple examples. I'm saying Donald Trump with the list, Ted Cruz with the Israel talk.
And how are these related?
That is influence by private industries.
Which industries?
The private sector influence.
That's convenient. Yeah, I know this because just the private industries. These are all feels. All you've got is feels. You're like, I feel like the private industry is like pushing this left and right.
Do we want to pull up the clip of Donald Trump before the tweets?
Official right now?
Do you want to pull up like the Truth Social posts where he's like talking about like we need to release the list for democracy, all this kind of shit, and then we can pull up the clip where he's literally there with his arms crossed, going, "What list?"
Donald Trump?
Yes.
And what does that mean?
Why have all of a sudden have you changed it, done a completely 180?
No,
unless you've been influenced.
So Donald Trump said, "What list?" Now there's a deep state because he crossed his arms.
No,
I'm just asking for some evidence.
Because before he's like, you have the information list, release the list, and then even when he got in initially, he was like, "Yeah, the list is on Pam Bondi's desk," and then all of a sudden, I guess it must have fell into the shredder or something. There was no list, and then afterwards, he's like, "Why are you still talking about a list?"
Okay, so I don't know what happened there, but let's just. I'm asking for proof. What if he actually found out on that list he's guilty, and he said, "What list?" No, that means he's not being controlled. He's protecting himself. The point is that doesn't prove he's being controlled. Who knows why he made that change? But it's not proof of anything.
No, what I'm saying is like that's No, what I'm saying though is like that's one example. Then like the amount of politicians like that, like influence from the likes of APAC is another example of like influence. So when you're talking about control, what I'm saying is the main thing is like they're like it's unelected. It's an organization that's unelected and it subverts democracy. And like I said, the only organizations, not the post office, but the CIA match that filter. Post office doesn't match that filter.
Okay, so there are so many things going on in the United States and multiple countries where corporations are influencing votes. When you talk about like voter interference.
No, this is not influence, Vybe. The example with the FBI is they deliberately subverted the election. They subverted the Hunter Biden laptop from getting out to the point where they literally explicitly issued orders to private companies like Facebook and all that stuff and says, "You're not posting this. You're taking down every single post that mentions this story."
I mean, we know about it. Once again, if there was a
unelected officials subverting democracy.
And democracy found out, and it's out there.
Yeah,
this is my point. Like the deep,
and what's happened?
Know these things.
What's happened since? Who if we found out, then who was responsible for that fight? If democracy found out about that, who's the one who issued the order to subvert that story? Who's to the blame? Who do we hold accountable for that?
We hold the people that actually suppressed that, right? And there was a change in
which is who? If we found out who did it,
the FBI, then there's a change in governance.
You can't you can't name the organization. I said this in my opening statement. You can't point and say the FBI did it because that's that's like trying to do like group wide blame and all shit. And like I said, like I was pointing out, the CIA, like majority of the CIA workers are like IT. You walk into an IT office, like you wouldn't even know you're in a CIA thing with their. It's just like a normal fucking office. You know what I mean? So it's like in terms of like you can't point to the whole organization, say the whole organization is to blame. I want the names, and you can't point to the names. Hence, deep state.
Okay, no.
Unelected officials subverting democracy.
Okay, I can make the same argument for a corporation, right? A corporation with 2 million employees as well.
No,
there's going to be employees that do things that aren't right, and
sorry, no. Some of these NGOs are probably part of the deep state as well. But yeah, continue.
So they're private. Okay, explain to me how the NGOs are deep state, because your deep state's failing all of
unelected officials subverting democracy.
Okay, I'm an unelected official. If I don't renew my
so, like for example, like Antifa,
democracy. Yeah. So I am deep state then.
Okay, how are we subverting democracy?
Because I didn't renew my driver's license and I didn't actually register for insurance.
How is that subverting democracy?
Well, the democracy says I'm supposed to do that. The laws say I'm supposed to do that. The elected officials say I'm supposed to do that. I'm actually directly going against what the elected officials said that I'm supposed to be doing in this country. So now I am deep state. No. Or am I just making bad decisions and breaking the law? And this is the whole difference between like where you've now taken deep state. I think you purposely did this to try to win it.
You don't understand that,
anything that anybody does outside of the elected state is called deep state. No, it's just called illegal.
No, subverting democracy. Subverting democracy is, for example, going to private institutions and censoring a story that actually is true, so that your candidate, your boy, gets into office. That's subverting democracy. So if you can give me an example of you doing that, then yeah, you're part of the deep state, bro. Hate to break to you. As Owen Wilson would say, wow.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I think you changed the goalpost to just basically saying when anybody outside of or part of the government system is doing something that they shouldn't be doing, that is deep state. And I'm saying that whenever that's happening, it's just illegal, and we always catch them. Sometimes we catch them right away. Sometimes we catch them.
Yeah, the deep state is illegal. Yeah,
like a decade later, but through our policies, we maintain to make sure there isn't actually a deep state of people running the elected officials outside of our own knowledge, right? And even like Biden, right? The auto pen, that could have been a deep state, right? And I mean, in a sense, I guess in your definition,
that's
that
what I'm
was
saying.
deep state, because here's all these people that
I don't even need to bring up Biden. Bringing up Biden is kind of like, if I had to go to Biden, I would have felt as though I was losing the debate, to be honest. But yeah, go ahead. If you want to bring up Biden, yeah, go ahead. But
it was caught. This is my point. Deep state,
like, just because you catch a deep state, like, doesn't mean that, like, you're saying it's like, yeah, like this was deep state stuff that Biden was doing, but we caught that. It's like, then how are you saying that it doesn't exist? That's what I'm saying, Vybe.
No, I was saying that you could call that. I don't call it deep state, right?
He's saying definitionally you're not satisfying the criteria it takes to meet what deep state is.
Yeah, ultimately, I made a definition. He made a definition, but he removed it. He removed one piece. He said basically anytime somebody under an elected official does something that isn't part of the democracy, that's deep state. And I'm saying that's just illegal, and that's just wrong. So maybe it's not always illegal. Maybe sometimes it's just wrong. And I don't consider that deep state. I think you just basically said when people underneath or even if the people elected do the wrong thing, you're like, that's deep state. You basically made it into like it being everything. But I say that deep state is something that scares people.
Yeah, but Vybe, like what I'm saying is that, like, murder is morally wrong, and you're saying, no, bro, murder is illegal. Like this is what I'm saying. It's like you're all thinking of like deep state, like being. Like, I just call that legal. It's like, yes, a deep state would be illegal. It's against the Constitution. You know what I mean?
Let me step back. Let's see if we can get this right. Right. So, deep state. The term deep state didn't even exist until 1990.
Okay.
Would you agree with that?
Whatever word you want to use or whatever, like I'm more than happy with.
And when people are talking about deep state, outside of you, when the rest of the world's talking about deep state, do you not think that they're talking about a group of unelected officials controlling the elected officials?
Democracy. Subverting democracy, yeah.
And if somebody does that for a day, so if I decide I'm gonna start my own cabal, right? I'm gonna go outside of the government agencies. I'm gonna start trying to do my own influencing of government. I'm gonna get Elon Musk on board, and we're gonna start setting up all this stuff. And if I succeed at that, it might take me 10 years. Would you call that a deep state?
No, you'd have to tie it specifically to some sort of control over the enforcement mechanism. So, like, for example, because the CIA, FBI, military, like that's why it's like that's the prerequisite.
Yeah,
but like I said, some private industries would also be considered like there's like military kind of like for example, like NASA would be like quote unquote like military because it's rocket technology. Technically, what Elon Musk is doing with SpaceX would be technically classified as military because it's like rocket technology.
Yeah.
Et cetera,
no,
et cetera.
I mean, really simply,
Lockheed
your definition
Martin,
of deep state says that Tesla's deep state, that SpaceX is deep state, that Microsoft is deep state, that Facebook
not
is
everyone.
Deep state.
It's not in all.
Pretty much.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's straw manning. It's like you're saying it's like for a deep state to exist, it has to be everyone or like everybody in this certain like filter, whatever. And then like also like we have to know about it as well at the same time. But
No,
like,
they could be operating independently, right? So I know that Facebook funds campaigns when presidents are being elected. They throw millions of dollars into certain campaigns. I know that Tesla does too. They may not actually fund the same guys, but they're funding, and they'll even throw some super PACs together and keep their names so you don't even know how many of them are actually doing it. They're all trying to influence the election. We even have the Russians throwing in fake Facebook posts to try to influence our elections to their terms. We have so many external sources trying to influence elections. And you keep on bringing up like influencing elections. I'm like, everybody's doing that. That's part of democracy.
No, I'm talking about subverting democracy.
Who's secretly actually changing votes? That's the deep state.
I'm talking about subverting democracy, because like that's what I'm saying. It's like where you're doing the whole like goalpost shift, or just kind of like using the different false equivocation, all this kind of shit. What I'm specifically talking about is subverting democracy, where the FBI went into private companies, said you are not going to post about this story, and done a nationwide censorship ban of truth because they didn't want it to come out because it would negatively affect Biden, and Biden would not have got elected. That is subverting democracy.
And I haven't actually looked up that case, but I'm just going to grant it. Let's say that happened. You know about it, therefore they got caught, and I'm sure something happened. And I see your expression, but like, if they actually got away with that I would then say, I would concede. If you're like, they got away with it and they're still doing it today, then I'm like, okay, well, there's a deep state. But no, you know about it, so it's not.
What I'm talking about, Vybe, is that like we don't know who who had the influence to issue that call for the FBI to then send out to all these private industries and censorship, like literally go against the motherfucking Constitution.
But what
Fuck your free speech.
go against the Constitution.
You're not talking about this story.
We even have people that have been leaders of the U.S. military, high-ranking officials that have actually gone against their own orders and taken whole platoons, not just one group of troops, and gone against the U.S. orders. That doesn't mean that particular platoon leader or the sergeant of those platoons was deep state. It just means he didn't follow the rules, and whoever was in charge of that, underneath whoever was elected, got punished. And the people, I'm sure, in the FBI got punished, but it's not a deep state. Do you not understand? I actually don't think you understand what a deep state is.
No, what I'm pointing to is like there was a certain event in which the motherfucking First Amendment was clearly violated, but in terms of responsibility, accountability, everyone chose them. I don't know. You know what I mean? And like meanwhile, like the shredders are going overtime.
Breaking laws does not equal deep state.
Subverting democracy from unelected officials is the deep state.
What's that?
Subverting democracy from unelected officials is literally deep state. It means they have more control than the president.
Okay, that's a good starting point.
Because again, Vybe, if you want to say it's like, okay, it's like that got fixed or whatever, who issued the call to put the 270 plainclothes? Because again, they said undercover, and like that was the wrong word, and that's how they were able to basically lie to the public. But in terms of it was plainclothes agents, so like just to make sure we use the correct terminology here, over 270 plainclothes agents in the crowds on January 6th. Who issued that call? And why was the National Guard prevented from coming in? Who was what? Why does like Donald Trump apparently he's supposed to be a king? They're all protesting. He's a king, right? Why wasn't he able to stop it? He was the president at the time. I thought he has the all the power. Because you're looking for like where's the outside control? There was some sort of outside influence or control over that event.
And where's your proof on that?
That there's 270 plainclothes agents? Provocateurs, as one might describe them.
Okay, so we're talking about the January 6th insurrection, right?
Yep.
And at that point, Donald Trump was still president.
Yeah.
And you're saying he didn't send anybody in.
Why is the FBI covering up the Hunter Biden story and putting 270 plainclothes agents in the J6 crowd? That they had the agents and they stopped the National Guard going in, but they were unable to somehow prevent the thing from escalating.
Yeah, I mean,
and there was no repercussions, by the way.
Doesn't even matter. I mean, look at. So here we go. This is exactly what I opened with, right? Inference, right? You're inferencing all these ideas that, well, we have this open question, but we don't know why. Therefore, it's the deep state. But then Biden got elected and stayed in for 4 years, and the democracy worked just like democracy and bureaucracy always works. It just keeps on churning. We've got Trump in now.
So democracy
is working just like it normally does too.
So autopen is democracy.
No, that was a failure. And I've admitted that there's so many failures in democracy all the time, but there's no secret crew running all of these things. Yeah, maybe for 4 months while he was doing, and I don't even know, people were signing off bills that they thought he would want. That's not what we elected. We found out about it. That's wrong. It's illegal. It's not a deep state.
Right. And then, like, in terms of like outside influence, outside control and stuff, can you explain how Nancy Pelosi only earns $200,000 a year but is worth $200 million?
Well, I think you know how that works. Politicians have a lot of information and knowledge, and they do paid gigs, they do books, they have people write books for them. It's all over the place. But once again, not a deep state. We can do a whole debate on that, and I might actually debate on your side on that, where there are some things where, because you're president or in a power position, which you're not supposed to do, maybe you take advantage of some of your knowledge, but once again, doesn't point to deep state.
Yeah, but all I'm pointing to that is, like, again, to give this picture of like what the CIA is. A lot of people think that it's like, you know, the FBI open up meme where it's like the whole like SWAT team and all that kind of stuff. But it's like, no, when you're talking about covert ops, when you're talking about CIA, it's like the reason why the I literally stands for is intelligence, information. Think of like an IT office. That's how they work. And in terms of like Nancy, the reason why I brought up Nancy Pelosi and why she's worth only earning $200,000, but she's worth $200 million, is because of things like insider trading. For example, hypothetically, I'm just a memester. This is all conspiracy theory, etc., etc. Just to make sure no one gets in trouble. Disclaimer, all that kind of shit, right? But would be things like that, and that's the power of information.
And I would still argue illegal, not deep state.
But the
unethical,
deep state is illegal.
Not deep state.
But the deep state is illegal, correct?
Not necessarily. I mean, I think by the definition of deep state, they could be, and I even saw before this whole thing started that somebody said the deep state, if there actually somebody was saying that, I'm not sure if there's a deep state or not, but if there is, I think I like what they're doing, and it might not be wrong, right? Like, I've heard you talk about conspiracies about
like, you just, like, in terms of what you just said, Vybe, you're saying that being an unelected official and subverting democracy is not illegal.
No. I was saying that you said that it's always bad. I'm saying
no. What I'm trying to focus in on here, Vybe, is like, and I'm genuinely being 100% serious here, is like the actual definition. Like, you're saying, is like, that's not deep state, that's illegal. But what I'm saying is like, yes, the deep state is illegal anyway. So it's like you're kind of like, you're not really providing a counter.
Okay, no. Okay, so my counter on that was actually from some other people. So it's actually not my counter, but some people were saying, if there was, by my definition, a secret cabal that was time lasting, controlling governments and the elected officials, and if what they were doing was benefiting the population, they were saying, I may not mind as deep state. Now, I'm actually saying there is no deep state. So I disagree that even exists. They're saying if it existed and it was doing a really good job maintaining the population or society, they're like, I don't care if there's a deep state. So I'm actually not saying there's a deep state, just saying there were some people saying, and that goes to what your last question was. I'm saying that the deep state is always illegal. No, I'm saying that what you're saying is whenever somebody does something illegal in the government, you're calling it deep state.
Yes, because the way currently things are run, it's kind of like kind of like Knights of the Round Table kind of job. So like think of like I gave the example earlier of like Rick and Morty, where it's like that Shadow Council, or even if you think of like the Simpsons with the Stonecutters table or whatever, it's like if they were to actually be upfront and say these are the people that actually run the shit, and we're not doing this democracy anymore, we're just like trusting these people because these are all like, you know, philosopher kings and all this kind of shit, right? If that was genuinely the case, then yeah, like that would be the one country where it's like it's not a deep state. They're upfront. It's like based in autocracy, etc., etc., etc. You know what I mean? But that's not what we have. What we have is actually that being run, but deceptively. Hence why it's deep state. That's what I'm saying.
Gosh, you lost me there. So I don't know Rick and Morty.
It's a cartoon.
Okay, let me start with the basics, right? Do you think that direct democracy is a good idea?
And when you say direct democracy, us electing officials and relying on those officials to elect people.
No.
Or
when I'm talking about direct democracy, I'm saying it's like, for example, everybody in the country signs into a government app, and it's like every single bill that's getting put forward or proposed or whatever. And like you could even like propose your own bills, all that kind of shit. You'll get a prompt or a notification. You need to vote on these bills or whatever. Even do it like pay them, do it, all kind of incentivize, all that kind of shit. Exactly. Do you know what I mean? Like, so it's like when you have such a massive empire like the West, like if you like just factor in like America or just like the fact of the whole West as one big massive thing, like that's a lot of shit, a lot of moving wheels, a lot of spinning plates, and all this kind of shit. So this whole idea that it's like we're only going to have like 4 years, every 4 years we're just going to like roll the dice essentially, that ain't a great idea. So the best thing to do is to have a secret autocracy, a deep state, and then from there you have like the proposed democracy, but you're basically, it's like WrestleMania. You kind of know who's going to be in the office, or at least like when it goes down to the final two, either way, it's your person that you're proposing.
Okay, so unpack that for me a little bit there. So you said, do we really want to trust the 4 years, or do we want to have that person on the side that's
continuation?
Like,
yes.
So you're suggesting we should have that person that's controlling who we elect, or what are you saying there?
No, I'm just explaining what is. I'm not saying should. I'm just saying what is.
Oh, so you're saying there is somebody on the side that's actually controlling who?
Yeah, this is what a deep state like mechanism is in the build-up, where it's like you have like a hidden autocracy that's actually like.
Okay, let's get into that hidden autocracy, right? And you're saying
unelected officials subverting democracy.
Okay, now I know I said name them. Let's make it easier for you. Categorize them. Who, like, you don't have to like say like, obviously if they're this good at being deep state, right? You can't say, well, I know Apple's deep state, I know Elon Musk's deep state. Can you give a category of who these people are that are controlling everybody that's getting elected? Like it would be this type of corporation, or it would be this foreign government.
Yeah, to give an example, like for like communism, like there's certain traits like what, like to define as seize the means of production. I mean, like I could list like that in terms of like the deep state itself. It's like this whole idea of like I'm vehemently against democracy. The idea of like this whole word of like just giving it to the populace to vote on these issues or to elect these representatives. It's a terrible idea. You need like a what would be like a think tank, shadow council kind of thing, autocracy, group of high intellectuals, but also like philanthropists, all this kind of stuff. The whole idea of like the Bill Gates Foundation and all this kind of shit. Like these type characters. Alex Jones would also call them like globalists. Would be another name that's thrown out there. But specifically in terms of like deep state, it's like because like you could take like the America or the West example. You were talking about Turkey earlier on, but like that's where it was like it first came from, the idea where it's like where you could take any state itself. Could be the same thing as Israel or Ireland, or take whatever country. If this manifests where there's unelected officials who are subverting democracy of that country, then yeah, that's a deep state. But if the populace are happy enough to trust an autocracy, then you no longer have a deep state. You just have what the people want.
So, I mean, I like what you said.
Is democracy.
Right? If is important. So let's say the Bill and Melinda Foundation, right? He definitely is kind of going outside the elective officials, correct? I mean, he is focusing on Africa and clean water. Actually, I think he's more sanitary pooping. He wants to make sure that we're not like pooping in the water that we drink from. And he's come up with some great inventions there. And he's doing that outside of government and things like that. However, maybe he's got this little secret agenda in the background and he's working with some people. Is that what you're saying? To maybe influence?
If he's doing this thing where it's like he's basically inadvertently like become like shadow partners of all the media of like one particular country, and then he basically is suppressing like actual truth of certain candidates and all that stuff to like make sure he gets his person in office, then yeah, he's doing deep state shit.
Okay, you know what? I'm going to agree with you on that. So if he starts going down that route, he's doing deep state stuff, or at least the idea of it. I would say it's a seed, not deep state. I would say it's a seed of deep state, but not deep state. Now, do you think that him and some of the entrepreneurs in Russia are sharing the same ideas, or do you think they might be fighting each other, or maybe even Elon Musk and Bill Gates? Maybe they both have seeds of deep state. But the problem is here is you give somebody like Bill Gates that power, and possibly he does. There are multiple other people that have that same power that don't have the same agenda. And therefore, now we have basically these seeds of what could be a deep state and what people think deep state is. They think like, oh, the biggest entrepreneurs in Russia and China and US, we're all getting together and we're all running the world. But there are seeds, and maybe, I mean, a lot of these guys are probably egotistic or like narcissists. They want to, but none of them can agree. All these seeds of deep state end up actually fighting each other and conflicting with each other. Therefore, they end up nulling out the possibility of a deep state.
No, like to be like, let's say different factions, like we've seen in World War II, for example. We had like the what was the pact that they made? Whatever the fuck the pact, like Germany thing, and then you had the Allies and all this kind of shit. So it's like there would be pacts made with certain individuals. So like for example, like Bill Gates, George Soros would like be to see very eye to eye on their particular worldview and how they'd influence it. Then there'd be the likes of, let's say, Elon Musk and Peter Thiel, who would have their view on it and how they think it should be governed. Like they think the autocracy should be a technocracy. So it's like I said, there's multiple people playing the game is basically, like I said, that structure where it's like you have this apparatus of like you basically infiltrate the Secret Service, all this kind of shit, and then you have the plate being spun in terms of like what actually goes on in terms of the democracy that plays out, or the show that gets played out every 4 years. You know what I mean? But like the private institutions, like that's the CIA, the FBI, military, all the shit. That's your enforcement mechanism to break down the whole like force doctrine. Like that's basically where we end up. You know what I mean?
How we all break down the force doctrine.
Yeah. If you control because the likes of FBI, CIA, military have a monopoly on force. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter if the police officer is actually wrong on the law and he's actually breaking the law. If he's beating the shit out of you, you're getting the shit beaten out of you. You know what I mean? He's got a weapon, he's got a taser, he's got a baton, he's got a full like bat belt. You know what I mean? And you're getting fucked up. You know what I mean? You might be wrong and all that kind of shit, but you're still getting fucked up.
So Donald Trump right now is sending in a bunch of militias and military into different areas like Portland and things like that. He's using force doctrine. I don't think he's deep state in the sense that he's publicly doing it. We all know he's doing it. He may be pushing constitutional boundaries. He's pushing all the boundaries that previous presidents have. However, he seems to be doing all the boundaries that every president has ever done. But is that deep state?
No, that'd be like tyrannical, or as the
but isn't
authoritarian or like police state
a bit tyrannical?
I mean, no, like you can do the carrot or the stick with the whole deep state thing. Like for example, like the carrot is, for example, like propping up like all like anti-government rhetoric, particularly in the arts and the media and all this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? That'd be the kind of like the carrot, like I'm giving you the thing, and then the stick would be kind of like anybody who opposes that rise, that artificial rise and going viral in that country and all this kind of stuff from all these basically losers or whatever. Like any account of that is going to get suppressed and make sure that like their account gets shadow banned and all this kind of shit.
All right, so let's look at the end of Trump's presidency. We actually find out that all these orders that he did to bring in military into all these states was completely unconstitutional and wrong, and actually illegal. Would that mean during the 4 years he was here, even as an elected official, he was deep state?
Sorry, say that again. All the intelligence.
So
he gathered over 4 years.
Let's say he's doing these things right now, right? He is the elected official, but he may be stepping his bounds, not doing what's legally right. Right?
But like, where is he subverting the democracy?
So potentially, I'm just saying,
because like
a lot of
if
people are
like,
contesting his military involvement within the states, like in Portland, correct?
Yeah, like in terms of like what I'm pointing towards here, it's like we've already said in terms of the outside influence and all this kind of shit, and the enforcement mechanism and all things at play. Like to say that like is Donald Trump deep state or not, I don't know. You know what I mean? You can only tell like on what transpires, and it's like you're even saying, like pointing to at the time when the Hunter Biden story first dropped, it's like it just got suppressed and no one was talking about it. You know what I mean? You had to go to like outside the conventional or the mainstream, as they would have said back then, to actually even hear about it and all this kind of shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I call that a cover up, and I call it elite. That's it.
Yeah, but like we only this shit only gets addressed like afterwards, like 4 years afterwards, and all the papers been shredded, all this kind of shit. You know what I mean? But like what I'm pointing towards there is like that's like what I can point to in terms of the deep state. I cannot name names because when I was asking, okay, like who's issuing all these orders to do all this subverting of the democracy shit. It's literally like what happened to the Hunter Biden thing was literally First Amendment. It literally broke the first fucking amendment. You know what I mean? But we don't know. We just have to say, I guess was the FBI fucked up. You know what I mean?
With your definition of deep state and most of the things that you would consider deep state, I guarantee you could probably, if you just Google it, name 90% of the names and people involved. It's not much. It's not very deep. So your definition of deep state basically is that the reason you potentially could win this argument is because your definition says, and like I said, half the thing, I mean, I'd say 90% of the things you talked about, we can look up names, we can find out who was responsible, we can find out who was punished, and that is exactly why I would say this is not deep state. The only reason I leave it 10% out there is because you threw some things out there I hadn't researched, and I don't know all the details behind that, but I would guess probably that we can find all the names behind that, which also would make it not a deep state. I would make the assumption that a deep, like, because you're saying, well, like you said, I can't name the names or anything like that. Well, your definition of deep state, yes, you can.
No.
And you already have. I mean, you already know about all of them. Like, you already know who was involved. You have the names.
Yeah, no, like, because like when I point towards examples, like when the democracy was subverted, like to have that level of power to go against not only the president but the Constitution. Like who has that level of power? And all we can point to is like, oh, the FBI, or like I guess the FBI fucked up. You know what I mean?
The point is, and that was my whole opening, was there is corruption. There are power plays. There are illegal moves. All these things happen. That is true, 100%. And you and I seem to know about them all. That means that is democracy failing and working at the same time. So people make bad decisions. People close their eyes.
So what was when Eisenhower was saying the military-industrial complex? He was saying what? That you guys just keep an eye out for like. So when Eisenhower was coming out saying it's like we have a military-industrial complex, folks. I mean, I'm out of here. And like I'm going to be sipping pina coladas on the beach or whatever. But we have a serious problem here with a military-industrial complex. It's out of control. Like he was basically kind of addressing the American people and saying, "I do not have control over the military. This whole thing of the president is the commander in chief. It is bullshit." You know what I mean? And then JFK afterwards saying we have an issue with the secret societies. You know what I mean? And then he got.
Well, I don't think he was saying that.
One sec. And then all this MK Ultra, all this shit. Who was responsible for that? I don't know. I guess the FBI or the CIA or some shit like that. And then when we get to modern day, there's more examples of the FBI suppressing the Hunter Biden laptop. And you're kind of saying, nah, bro, this is all just like incompetence. MK Ultra is incompetence.
No, yeah, that was bad. Yeah, Oh my God. Have you not seen the world history of how much incompetence has happened in every government for every country over and over and over again? This is
Bro.
nothing new. This is not like, oh my God, that happened. Like, how did that happen? No, this has been happening forever, and it's still happening today, and it's still happening in countries right now. If it wasn't happening right now, there wouldn't even be a war between Russia and Ukraine right now. Like, the whole idea that we're still in conflict worldwide is crazy.
Just to clarify, Vybe, right? Like the atrocity of like World War II in terms of the Holocaust, all this stuff. It's like people say, oh, like it wasn't actually 6 million or whatever the fuck. Like the numbers are relevant. It's what they were doing to those people. You know what I mean, subject them to all this like fucked up shit just with the effort and the goal to see if like can we, if we do a certain thing to this person, can we fundamentally break their fucking mind and then get them to do whatever we want, turn them into our puppet? Because
absolutely horrible.
If we can turn them into a slave, then we don't have to. We can end the war. There'll be no more war. And this is why I'm always skeptical of these anti-war people. Like, why are you so anti-war? Like, what's your solution? You know what I mean? And oftentimes it's this whole thing of like, can we influence, control their behaviors and their brain? This is why they use mescaline and LSD, because like the one experience that's commonly reported with LSD or psilocybin magic mushrooms is that it breaks the ego. It basically, you have to do like it's like a factory reset in your brain. You know what I mean? And that's what they were trying to do, is like, can we reset their brain and then control their behavior, get them to basically be a puppet and like an agent for us and all this kind of shit. That's their stated goals. That was what the Yahtzees were doing. MK Ultra is the exact same shit, just improved technology. So instead of using mescaline, they developed LSD.
And that
proves... But this is not... But Flo, for you to sit here and say this is incompetence, this is a whoopsie, or this is just bad policy, is bullshit.
Okay, we make mistakes, but no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, how does that make a deep state? You're just throwing this like...
Because there was no oversight from the president, and then Eisenhower in the 60s saying, we have a military-industrial complex.
There was oversight. It was bad oversight, but eventually the oversight looked at it and said, this is bad, and they fixed it. There was bad oversight in the 80s. There's probably bad oversight happening right now with 2 million direct employees happening of the United States. Not, and that's not even worldwide. And they're probably going to be uncovered. So like in 10 years, you can have this conversation with me. Like, can you believe this happened during Trump? I'll be like, yeah, that was bad. I didn't know. But it wasn't a deep state. It wasn't a coordinated plan by a secret cabal in the background making all this stuff happen.
Okay, so like if I fight a war against somebody because I'm against their beliefs, then if I start doing the same shit that they were doing, did I really win the war?
What does it have to do with a secret deep state?
If MK Ultra is just what the Yahtzees was doing but continued on, did you really win the war?
Still, what does that have to do with a deep state?
Because this agency that you created, the CIA, is doing the exact same shit that the Yahtzees were doing with no oversight. And you're saying, yeah, but we found out about it. It's like, yeah, we found out about it, but there's literally no oversight on this. And you have your own president.
I did look into MK Ultra
60 years ago.
Hold on. Go ahead and let Tareyak finish, please.
So, like, over 60 years ago, the president of your country was saying, we have an issue here with the military. They're going too far. And you're saying since then, like, things have been cleaned up. But it's like, I guarantee you it's only gotten worse. And I can point to modern examples like the Hunter Biden laptop story being suppressed as one example of literally democracy being subverted and the Constitution. And you're saying that's just incompetent, that's just a whoopsie. And I'm saying, no, this is nefarious. This is who we're dealing with.
Yeah, so this debate went from a deep state debate to, is the U.S. Political system perfect? And I think you won. On is the
no
U.S. political system perfect? But I still would not put it in the category of a deep state. Have there been covert actions happen? Have there been unelected officials that have done stuff that were against the elected officials? Yes, all these things are true, but there is no secret cabal in the background running all of this stuff from term to term to term. We can see it over and over and over, where we see presidents firing the heads of CIAs, shutting down watchdog programs and creating brand new ones. There's no evidence that there's this core crew of people running everything. The only evidence you've been able to show me all night is that there have been appointed officials that have people under them that have done bad things. That's the only thing you've proven tonight. And you now say when somebody in any government does something bad against the elected people, I call that deep state. I call that illegal, wrong, but not deep state.
Yeah, so what I'm pointing to is behavior like such as unelected officials subverting democracy. And like, for example, just even taking the MK Ultra, and why I use that as an example is they literally took people, like this whole kind of phenomenon that you see of like the people that get abducted. You see a bright light, but if you got a bright enough light, someone who's walking home on the street one night on their own, and then came up behind them and injected them with LSD, mescaline, maybe some meth, you know what I mean? They ain't gonna remember shit after that. Firstly, I mean,
actually, I'll even take it further.
So this whole idea of like we don't really give a fuck about these people. We don't give a fuck about their autonomy or anything like that. These people, we just see these people as slaves, a means to an end.
No,
that's their whole state of going all the shit. Yeah.
Did you know that they actually ran ads for men to pick up women, like prostitutes, and those men would come thinking that they were going to pay a woman, and then when they went there, they had a two-way mirror, and they shot them up with LSD. Right? Hey, I don't even mind telling you how it was even worse than what you're explaining. I don't mind telling you this. Now, what did Congress did approve this project, by the way. Were they told about it and what they were doing? No. Was it right? No. Was it a deep state? No. Was it fucked up?
Why'd you say no? How are you ruling out deep state? So walk me through your mathematics here that to rule out the deep state or any possibility of a deep state.
So a deep state is a cross-organizational crew running the politics. And I actually was putting it globally. Like I was saying, okay, we got this like James Bond type villain that has a global like goal, maybe all the billionaires, but let's just make it smaller. Let's just make it the United States, a group of individuals. And let's not even say they're businessmen. Let's just say a group of politicians. Well, I'm going to give you as much leeway as I can here. A group of politicians go, well, I know Elon. This guy's like, well, I know Bill Gates. Let's see for the next 10 years if we can influence the presidents that we need in there to make the things happen so that we can inject people that don't want to be injected with LSD in the 50s. Like this group of people that are actually controlling our government outside of the people that are voting.
So your definition of a deep
state, I'm not talking about
like
illegal activity or secret activity or messed up activity that our government or any government has done. I'm talking about a deep, very deep, right? Because these programs you're talking about aren't deep. They were so surface level, they all got exposed, right? I'm talking about
so deep. So one sec. Let me
just finish
right there.
No,
1 second.
Hold on. Let Vybe finish what he's saying, and then you can clarify after. Go ahead, Vybe.
Yeah, I mean, quick 10 seconds.
Deep. We were at so deep.
So deep you can't see it. State meaning they're running government.
Yeah, so you're saying that it's like in order for you to accept that it's deep state, it needs to be so deep that we don't even know about it. Do you not understand how fucking batshit crazy that is, Vybe?
I do. And
I want you to prove it to me that we don't even know about it. So I can't know about it, but if I don't know about it, how the fuck can I convince you, Vybe?
Well, okay, so first off,
how can I know something that I don't know?
Which is what this is great.
And if you don't know, now you know.
Well, I thought you couldn't prove a negative, though.
Yeah, you can't prove a negative. But what you can do is you can look at a black box. And you don't know what's in the black box. You throw a 1 in there, and a 1 comes out.
No. This is not proving a negative. This is how crazy this bullshit is. No, Sarah, this is crazy. What Vybe just said. Because one of your criteria for identifying.
Hold on, let him finish talking, and then I will gladly hand it back over, Tareyak. You guys are doing awesome. Go ahead, Vybe.
So in this black box, which you're saying is unprovable, right? I'm actually saying a deep state could be provable. So I did open my opening statement saying basically the definition of this is unprovable. It's unfalsifiable, right? And because regular logic actually lines up better than the conspiracy theories that you're throwing out. But if we want, and I'm throwing you a cookie here, if we really want to look at it as a deep state that does exist that we don't know about, there's going to be this black box, which they are, and there's going to be a pattern, and it's been happening for, I don't know, 80 years. Let's just go like from World War I, and we can see the pattern and we can predict the pattern. So, and this is the problem with the deep state. If you look at the pattern, there would be a pattern of elected officials not being able to fire or replace judges. There'd be a pattern of them not being able to do certain things. There'd be a pattern of, there would be all these things if there was a deep state of people that were controlling the world that cannot be seen. And that would be something I would use, is I laid them out in my opening statement. The pattern shows that it's actually impossible for that to exist. Now, you could actually prove a deep state that we don't know about, that's so deep that we don't know about, by the pattern that it outputs on our government.
Yeah, so you're not going to try and snake away from this whole thing of like, I can't prove a negative. This is not a negative. One of your criteria for defining the deep state is that it's so deep that we don't know about it. So if we don't know about it, how can we prove it?
That was not my opening statement. I said, actually, that was one of my claims.
I'm not talking about opening statement. I'm talking about what you just said. You just said that it has to be so deep. You know what I'm saying? That is like we don't know about it, but we somehow have to prove it without knowing it.
Okay, true. I can rewind it in my mind and say deep means it's way lower than all the things we're talking about, right? It means there's a group of people controlling. So yeah, I'll rewind. I'll concede that I did say that. And two, I said state would be controlling government. All the examples you gave me were all surface level, right? And I don't consider any of that deep state. This is one of the reasons I say there's no deep state. Now, the second reason I say there's no deep state is because even if we can't see them and prove them, if they're so good at their job, there's going to be a pattern. And if it's been happening this long, we can predict the pattern and we can see the pattern. And anything that would show any type of global consolidation of a deep state fails that test.
So, like, for example, like Eisenhower, when he's talking about military-industrial complex, or JFK, when he's talking about secret societies, and then when JFK gets the pew-pew in front of everybody in Texas, I mean, that's not repeated behavior. Yeah, or like when the FBI covered up the Hunter Biden laptop story, or when they put 207 plainclothes agents in the J6 crowds, but somehow were unable to maintain the crowd and rejected the National Guard. That's not repeated behavior.
So the behavior, though, would have to have a agenda that swings one way or the other. All the agendas you're pointing out actually would be my proof, saying that between like Biden and Trump and Carter and Reagan and all these things, they don't stay consistent with a standard messaging of putting a deep state with a standardized objective, right?
Yeah, because like, I thought this debate would go in many directions.
But I did not just things that happen.
One sec. I did not expect this debate or a part of this debate to be, Tareyak, you need to prove something that we can't possibly know.
Well, I actually, like I said, I threw you a bone saying actually you could know it, and you could lay out a pattern.
Repeated behavior.
You're just saying, well, I've seen government corrupt a bunch of times, but that's not a pattern. It's a pattern of corruption, but it's not a pattern of deep state. So I'll give me.
Okay.
It's a pattern of repeated mistakes that all governments make, and it's still happening now. But it's not a pattern that shows a consistency of a message.
Okay, and this is where we're talking about where it's like the argument of incongruity, where it's like asserts that it has to be false because it contradicts one's expectations or beliefs. And the false expectation here that you're doing, Vybe, is that the CIA is like a morally good, or like they're the good guys kind of situation, or they've ever done anything good. I'm not making
that statement at all.
Yeah, because like in terms of the aspect of like this organization has always been fucking up. You know what I mean?
I'm not making that statement either.
Like that's your whole thing of like this has just been like, oh, it's a fugazi or a little whoopsie or whatever kind of thing. Like this
is government and politics. Yes, sometimes good, sometimes bad.
So MK Ultra was politics.
Yeah, It was. I mean,
Can you show me? Okay. Can you show me the vote?
Nobody
MK
voted
Ultra?
for it, but the oversight in the government actually saw it, and we actually regret it, and we know it was bad, and we look down on that, and we put new watchdogs in place to make sure something like that never happens again. But it wasn't a deep state.
Yeah, but like we went over, like your definition in deep state is literally impossible. But like,
No,
like
I actually
sidestepping that, it's
showed
like,
you a way to prove it to me. I unchanged it from an unfalsifiable idea, and this is also why. I mean, you know, I do my Bible study, right? And of course, all the atheists come on there saying that mine is unfalsifiable. So I'm not even going on unfalsifiable claim. I'm just saying there actually can be a pattern that you could produce to show that these are all not just politics, bureaucracy, and people being stupid, and actually show a pattern that shows, even if we don't know who it is, that there is an organized effort to get humanity to a certain place globally. And that I would call a deep state.
yeah. So when we look at the CIA, even the foundations, like it was literally like the birth of what was Yahtzee technology. You know what I mean? And since then, like I point to MK Ultra, that they continued that technology. This is a unelected organization. Would you concede it's unelected? The CIA,
Absolutely.
Unelected organization that has actively.
The military is unelected.
And would you concede that the CIA actively subverts foreign democracies?
Actively supports or
Subverts.
influences?
Would you concede that they subvert?
Subvert. No, I because they don't subvert all, but they definitely they do some and they don't others. They play multiple different roles.
Yeah, but they have, okay, so but they have, you would concede they have subverted democracies previously. Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
So would you concede that so would you concede they're an organization of unelected officials that subvert democracy?
I would.
You agreed. This is no. I'll tell you what this is right here, Vybe. One second. I just want to I'll give you the floor. I'll give you the floor. This is like the scene in Friends where Phoebe's trying to teach Joey French, and then he goes like word by word. Je, me, pel, Joey, and then je m'appelle Joey, and je blah. Like that's basically what just happened, Vybe.
Okay, so you asked me a question earlier. Do you think every citizen should like have an app where they vote on every policy and every decision and everything? And I said no, and you agreed, right?
Yep.
So we elect a president. They put somebody in charge of the CIA, and they are covert ops. Now, whether they're right or wrong, whether they should be subverting, and sometimes when they're subverting, it actually is bad for the people there. I've seen that with our CIA. Sometimes what they're subverting is actually to lift the people, which is good. But I'm not voting on that. I voted on a president that I'm trusting to oversee that. Yes, it is an unelected official. I'll agree. I'll concede on that. Did I have some control of that? Yes, by voting in the person in charge of those people. And if I find out about those things, then I'm not going to vote for that. If I don't like what they did, I'm not going to vote for that person. I'm going to demand. A lot of people are. The press are going to throw articles out. The Wall Street Journal is going to say, did you know that the person in charge of the CIA right now did this and like ended up demolishing this many people? I mean, we have so many checkpoints in place that, yes, bad things happen, but we try to rectify them when we catch them.
Yeah, so like, would you concede like, okay, so if there was a situation where like that guy's the patsy and they like basically have like so much of the politicians already bought and paid for, like this whole thing of like, well, I'm not going to vote for him in the next election. Well, if they've also paid the other dude off, so you're voting in the next one, then you really can't go against this whole deep state theory. Because like, again, I want to point out, my whole thing is that it's like the subverting democracy element. It's like, you're saying it's like, oh, well, this doesn't seem like you care about democracy. It's like, even if I didn't care about democracy, the argument would still stand because the deep state is that you have the illusion of democracy in place.
Well, okay. So that's kind of my point, right?
Yeah.
So I guess it really still comes down to definitions. So I would say that it is still, even in the United States now, and I'm going to say, I still believe there is no deep state, but there is actually an illusion of democracy, right? I do really educated votes every. I always do mail-in votes because I like to get the book. I like to read everything. I like to pre-fill them out, not just show up and go, "What the heck is this issue?" Right? I like to make an educated vote, but I know the majority of people don't. So I have a perceived notion that when I go vote, it makes a difference. Then the other 80% of the population is just going in and like, they're like, I wanted to vote for this guy for mayor, and then they just fill out a bunch of random bubbles after that. That's perceived in a sense, right? But it's not real democracy. But it's not a deep state, once again. Like,
Yeah, no, like what I'm pointing to is like if you had the same setup, but you no longer had the illusion of democracy, and we just accepted that we're going to be ruled by unelected autocracy, technocracy, whatever you want to.
I don't think we're ruled by unelected. I think
what I'm saying is
we elect are appointing a bunch of people that are not elected. Like I said, in the United States, not non-private organizations, just the United States is 2 million unelected employees that are running this country.
Yeah, just real quick, Vybe. Like in terms of the dynamic, like what I'm pointing to is like if Donald Trump was to come out and say, actually, the people who are dictating the policies are these like 10 individuals or whatever, or this think tank or whatever, right? If Donald Trump was to do that, then effectively there's no deep state because everybody knows that we're being ruled by autocracy. The fact that you conceded that one sec. The fact that you conceded. The fact that you conceded to the fact that there is basically this illusion of democracy, you're kind of also saying it's like, yeah, like you basically kind of agree that there is a deep state, you just wouldn't call it a deep state, you just call it illegal, I guess.
No. So you just did there, because I know what deep state is. You don't. That's kind of the problem. And now that you're saying that because I actually agree that democracy doesn't work perfect, that now all of a sudden I agree with your definition, that's totally incorrect. I know what deep state is. You don't know what deep state is. That's kind of the problem here. You look at any problem in politics and you call that a deep state.
No, I've given specific examples. So, like, what's the key differentiation between your definition to my definition?
Well, basically, every conspiracy and non-conspiracy and everything we did wrong, and anytime any player. So when you go elect for the president, right? You elect your senator and congressman and your president. You elect to a few people for 4 years, some for 6, some for 2. Right? They all vary. And when you elect those few people, there are now 2 million people under them running their directive. Now you're saying every time the people I voted for, any of the people under them, any of the departments go rogue, go secret, do something wrong, that person now is deep state.
No, what I'm saying is when President Eisenhower said that there's a military industrial complex, what did he mean by that, Vybe?
You keep on saying that, and I can tell you exactly what he meant, right? It's really simple. Look at it this way, right? And I pointed this out right at the beginning of our argument in this deep space state, and what you were saying is a deep state. So our military complex, according to your definition, is deep state because they do things in secrecy and they are extremely powerful. Matter of fact, our U.S. military is the most powerful military in the world, and they do secret actions. To your definitions, our military is deep state.
No.
Now,
no.
Well, that was your definition.
Unelected officials unelected officials subverting democracy. Those are the two caveats. So if there is a subgroup in the military that are subverting democracy, then that would be a deep state element, and that's what Eisenhower was warning us about.
No, I think what he was warning us
about. So it's not just my words; it's your own former president's words, and JFK's.
Yeah. So imagine this, right? We've got this. We've got an unelected leader of the military, right? And who does he answer to?
The elected president, commander in chief.
Can he go against
the only President Donald Trump?
Can he go against our president?
No, that'd be treason.
However, he is commanding the strongest, most powerful military of the world. So what is Donald Trump going to do against him when he has the largest force?
That's how a coup happens.
Exactly, right?
Which would have been a deep state that was operating under the illusion of what was going on.
Okay, and that actually does happen in a lot of third world countries, right?
Yes.
How is it that doesn't happen here? Where is
Because
it?
like this is what I'm saying is like you have the caricature of like this one deep state and thing, and that, like that's what I was saying. There's multiple different countries, and like, you even brought up that originate in Turkey, all this kind of stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like the first like
when I
coins
brought
and
up
all this
Turkey,
kind of stuff.
though, it wasn't a deep state.
Yeah.
And it doesn't actually match the definition. It's where the definition came from. And there was like a movie fantasy coming up with this whole like secret subversive government. It was a coup that happened over a short period of time that got shut down. And if it didn't, then that is then cable news made it into deep state, which is the secret. The conspiracy theorists love this, right? They're just like, take down the deep state. Even Donald Trump freaking misuses it.
And this is what I was saying with the gaslighting, because it's like we're going to brush it off as being conspiracy theories. I predicted this vibe from the very get go. You know what I'm saying? And like this is what I'm saying. It's like I'm using like former president words that were saying there's like this whole like hidden group, this illusion that like you've basically conceded to. But
no,
like you're kind of saying it's like, oh no, you're just.
That's what I'm saying. There's no hidden group.
But okay, so then what was Eisenhower talking about? What was JFK talking about?
I just pointed that out, right? I mean, potentially our military could be the biggest weapon against our own country, right? There is an unelected person running the whole military, and he answers to our president.
Yes.
Okay. So is our military deep state?
Potentially, yes. It could be used against you, yeah.
And I would say
military coup
is used against us. I would say it's not, unless there is a controlling factor underneath that, a group of people, let's say Elon Musk and Bill Gates and all those guys get together and they're like, General, we want to take out Elon. We need artificial intelligence to take over the world. Now, if you could give me some like, and you don't have to give me organizations, if you could give me some evidence of that structure happening and a flow of that, regardless of organizations, regardless of people, a structured flow of this is the pattern I've seen and this is what I'm predicting, I would finally concede.
So like, again, like we get back to it's like, if you can give me the secret sauce of like what they're scheming and planning, like if you were the fly in the wall in the room, like then I'll believe you. But it's like this whole thing of like, even if I was to give you all this proof, then it'd be like, I think you're talking bollocks. You know what I mean? Like, where's the actual like photographic evidence, or where's the videos and all this kind of shit? And it's like like a never ending like demand of like, or goalpost shift. You know what I mean?
No, I don't think so, right? But I can see where you're coming from, because ultimately, like I said, you don't know what the definition of deep state is. You look at mistakes of of governments, individuals working outside of what the president actually wants to happen, or congressmen closing a blind eye because they like the actions. You call that deep state. I call that bureaucracy and politics. I call deep state something that we is unmanageable and is happening outside of even that sphere of the government contractors and employees doing something like a coup against the government and trying to succeed as a coordinated effort. And I see no evidence of that. And it doesn't have to, you don't even have to name names. You can actually show a pattern. Like you can say, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening. I've heard you do this, by the way, with like the trans and gay. You're like, well, there's a whole movement behind that. This is what they want you to do. There's a whole pattern. You laid out the pattern. You can lay out a pattern without actually naming names.
Yeah. So Eisenhower speech followed by JFK talking about secret societies, then JFK getting the pew pew treatment.
You're just talking about speeches, though. You're not actually showing past actions following a sequence into what you predict the future actions happening.
So again,
and you don't
I'm
need
not
to name names. You don't need to have to point out anybody on that.
You know, like what I'm pointing to is like what. Yeah, what I'm pointing towards is like the president of the United States, the top dog, the number one most powerful man on earth, apparently, is telling you have a military industrial complex 60 years ago. And then 60 years ago, the dude after him, who was like, yeah, we need to address this whole secret society stuff that we're doing, then gets his pew-pew. You know what I mean? And then you're saying it's like, but like I need evidence. And it's like, my brother, like what do you think they were talking about with the military industrial complex and secret societies? And you're saying, well, that's not evidence. But what are they talking about then? If not some sort of deep state.
Yeah, and when you're saying that JFK got pew-pewed, right?
Yeah.
And apparently that was the CIA. And then as soon as the vice president came in, he fired the director of the CIA and like revamped that whole program. That doesn't seem like it really works with a deep state.
So you're telling me that like president gets assassinated and then the next guy in fires the head of the CIA, the organization that we've called into question, that was literally formed straight after and like formed with Yahtzees and all this kind of shit. The organization that you're acting as benevolent or the good guys, they would never do anything wrong. They'd never subvert democracy, all this kind of shit. You're saying that like because they fired the dude, which does look fishy as if it was actually the CIA, you're saying that means that the CIA is innocent?
No, I'm saying if the CIA wanted to murder a president, right? If they have so much power to control the elected officials, and if the elected officials go against them and the CIA kills, like this conspiracy theory, then the CIA kills JFK, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then wouldn't you be, as the next person, quiet? Like, I don't want to be dead.
Not necessarily, no, because there's people who were brave enough to speak out about it, like JFK, like RFK, because RFK was going to do the same thing, and he had to get rubbed out, as they would say. You know what I mean? So I'm pointing to like, and then like you even have Donald Trump. He's catching fires, he's catching strays. You know what I mean? But like I said, the whole kind of setup here that was in the '60s, and then we found out in the '70s, MK Ultra and all that stuff was going on. So it's like the organization I'm pointing to is clearly doing illegal shit, doing nefarious shit, and doing whatever they want. They don't care what the president says or what the Constitution says. This rogue organization is doing whatever the fuck they want. And you're saying, well, that's not proof of a deep state, Tareyak. Then what the fuck is that's illegal? It's like, no shit, it's legal. It's a deep state.
Yeah, and so what actually happened with JFK is the guy that was actually in charge was actually put in charge of investigating the JFK murder, right? So potentially what the conspiracy theorists thought is if this guy was the one that actually made the murder happen, why was he put in charge of that? The whole fact that he actually believed me that he was fired after that just tells me that you're so off on your understanding of history. And
Okay, one sec,
crazy.
Why did he fire the head of the CIA then?
He didn't.
No, but you said he did.
I know. I was just seeing if you actually even know the stories.
Yeah, but either way, you painted you were no one sec, because you've just shown yourself like, oh, because now you're saying that like you were trying to make the case that because he fired him, that means that it wasn't nefarious activity.
Yeah, if anything, I'm making your case by actually telling you.
No, but you tried to argue as if that was your case, which just proved that you were doing the whole bad faith shit, which is what I called out at the start with the gaslighting. The nine facts distort reality.
And how far you've actually investigated them, and how well you actually know the history when you're talking about the assassination.
I do have to say,
JFK.
I do have to say this was one of my best predictions. You know what I'm saying? But in terms of, like I said, Vybe, I don't know what proof. Like I said, even like the whole fucking thing that you said earlier on, where it's like, it needs to be so deep that we don't even know about it. So then how the fuck do I prove it to you, Vybe? Like, that's what I'm saying in terms of like the unwillingness to actually engage in good faith.
I don't even think that came up until the end. But
that's what I'm saying. That's how you're arguing right now. You're like twisting facts to distort reality.
No, I actually even gave you ways to prove that.
Yeah, one of which is impossible. Because I cannot prove to you something I don't know.
No, this is when I was talking about the black box. So if there was a deep state, it would be a black box. If you throw something into the front of the black box, something's going to come out the back. If you watch it enough, so if I throw a 1 in and a 1 comes out, and I throw another 1 in, and a 2 comes out, and I throw another 1 and a 3 comes out, what would you think the next thing would be?
4, I guess.
Probably, right?
Yeah.
And that's a good guess given the data you have. But it would still be a conspiracy theory because we don't know how the black box works, right? It could be when I throw another 1 in, a 1 starts again. Now you can go, oh, I got a little bit more evidence now. Now I can go, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we can have all these scenarios, right? And I believe that, like you said, it's kind of unprovable, but it is provable because we've been talking about these secret agencies for like 100 years. There's been enough data thrown in the front of the black box that we can actually look at all that data and go, if there was a deep state, this is what the output would look like today. And the output today does not match.
Okay. If there's no deep state, why did the FBI subvert the First Amendment? Subvert democracy and go against the First Amendment. If there's no deep state, why did that happen?
You're talking about the Facebook thing, right?
Not just Facebook, every single social media company.
Yeah, I mean, once again, this is not a outside group.
No, we're going through the data. We're throwing in the numbers.
Going through the data,
yeah.
Right? And once again, on my definition here, it's got to be this consolidated group shooting for the same outcome. They're controlling the FBI. You're saying the deep state is the FBI because they're controlling Facebook and the other social media outlets. I'm saying that really
it's one aspect, yeah.
And maybe the president actually told them. I don't know. That is the one I didn't research. That's the one I tried to look up all of them. I researched
so Donald Trump told the FBI to suppress the Hunter Biden laptop story.
I don't know those or that, but I'm not saying that didn't happen. We know it happened, right? What I'm saying is I don't think there was a secret group, a secret cabal controlling the government on that. I think there were bad actors in our government, and maybe some elected, maybe some unelected, that were acting in bad faith. And I don't consider that deep state.
Yeah, again, what's the difference between my definition and your definition? What's the crucial difference here?
I think basically anything anybody does that's not elected that goes against what the elected officials do is your deep state, and that's why I brought up.
No.
Like,
yeah,
if the director of the FBI,
that's not my thing, but yeah, go ahead.
Or the CIA, and they do their own ops, and it's not good. Let's say they do MK Ultra. They tell Congress, "Hey, we're doing something to move our intelligence further," and Congress goes, "Okay, stamped," but they don't tell them what it is, and the person leading that is being disingenuous. That is not a deep state. That is a leader under an unelected leader under the leadership making bad choices. That's not deep state.
The question I asked is what's your definition of the deep state, or like what's the main difference between our definition of deep state? My definition of deep state is unelected officials subverting democracy. What's the differential for yours?
Mine is unelected officials controlling multiple branches of democracy.
So it's the same thing, subverting democracy.
No, yours always stays singular. So like yours is like it was the CIA doing it this time. It was the FBI doing this. This would be me taking a level lower, saying that there is a single party controlling multiple agencies.
Yeah, but what I'd point towards, like when I'm talking about the FBI, when I'm talking about the CIA, I'm talking about those mechanisms. CIA is the foreign or domestic, and the CIA, FBI is domestic. So like you like even like your definition, like you're making the claim that's like you don't understand what the deep state is, but then like your definition is just like a mirrored reflection of mine.
Not at all, because yours is always department dependent and somebody going against the voters' intentions. Mine is a group outside of all those agencies controlling those agencies.
Yeah, so it's like basically.
So like MK Ultra, right? Was that CIA or was that individuals outside the CIA controlling the CIA?
Oh, like in terms of the whole aspect, like who created the CIA? That would be my like. Why was the CIA being created? Like whoever was influencing it in terms of the outside. But when you look at the actions of the CIA, you're kind of they're going against what the state is supposedly supposed to enforce, which is First Amendment, Second Amendment, etc., etc.
And were they going against what the state was supposed to be enforcing?
So one second, to bring it back to your black box theory, because this is one of the criteria for proving that there was a deep state. Show you that I'm being good faith. I'm taking your argument and showing you. We put in the data of like this current mechanism, which came from Yahtzee, and now what we're seeing is it's basically subverting democracy. And you're saying that's not deep state. I'm not accepting that.
When we developed the nuclear technology, right, during World War II, and we're importing all the scientists, like that was also the same thing.
Sorry, say that again.
When we were recruiting the Yahtzee engineers to the United States, right, bringing them out to New Mexico and building the nuclear weapon, that would be the same thing, exact same thing that you're talking about, is the MK deal, right? We're like, oh, they were doing this mind control. If they're doing that, we better figure it out before they do. And oh, they're building a nuclear weapon. Let's see if we can get all their people building nuclear weapons, so we can do it first, right? Two identical scenarios, correct? Or is there any difference between those two? Because one
I guess
really bad at, and one we go, oh, thank God we did it first.
Wait,
and they were both stolen from the Yahtzees.
Wait, I'm not sure what the differentiation is there.
Okay, so you were talking about MK Ultra. The Yahtzees were doing that. We started doing that, correct?
Yes,
and
like
we
decades
even
later.
brought people over for that.
Yeah, decades later.
Okay, so we did that because they were doing that, right? We followed what they did. Okay. They were also trying to build nuclear weapons, right?
Yep.
We brought over people from there to build nuclear weapons here. Yeah?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What's the difference?
Again, I'm pointing to the organization. It's like, it's literally Yahtzee. You know what I mean? And like when you look back to who was the people who funded the rise of Adolf, it was a lot of American money. Chase Manhattan Bank was clearing checks for them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You know what I mean? So when you look at the, like, because this is after the war, we already beat the Germans when the Operation Paperclip was going through. So it's like you were taking in all the stuff, and you're like, hey, this mind control shit, it's like this could actually work, and then we would never have to go to war again. It's like this whole kind of like noble intention, but you're actually on paving your way to hell. So it's like you continue on, like this is decades later, like 1970s is when MK Ultra was around. So it's like, okay. I'm pointing to a nefarious organization that's supposed to like this would be against like the Constitution. They're against America.
Right. But as I'm pointing out,
so already that organization is like corrupt as fuck. You know what I mean? And you're saying that's not a deep state, or that's not any indication of deep state shit at all.
The Yahtzee organization was corrupt as fuck, right? Or was it a different?
That's basically what the CIA is basically the clone version of the SS, Secret Service.
Now, do you think that we said, oh, we want to be against the Jews, we want to be apocalyptic, or start genocide, so we better form something similar to what they have? Or do you think we said, oh crap, they're doing intelligence on us, we better do intelligence back? Like, where?
I have to ask this because
you are.
One sec. I have to ask this.
So let's try to bring it back.
So if we were to take out like the whole master race and like the genocide of the Jays or the deplorables or whatever, right? What would be morally wrong with National Socialism?
No, I'm not doing this debate again. So let's go.
Yeah, because like this is the thing. Because you're saying it's like oh, like because like we've imported from the Yahtzees, that necessarily means the CIA has to be against the Jays. I've not pointed that. I've pointed to the MK Ultra specifically being the exact same experimentation that they done, which was the actual fucked up shit that they done.
Okay, perfect. So you brought it back, and We also did the exact same nuclear testing and stole their scientists and did it here too, right?
You continued on the research.
I
Yes.
just realized I'm muted. I apologize because I said 3 minutes ago, and then I was trying to pin it to say we can hold that conversation from open panel if you wanted to. I do apologize. I didn't realize I muted myself. Um, if you gentlemen would like, let's go ahead and move into closing statements, and then we can maneuver over into open panel. Tareyak, I think you weren't staying, but if anybody else wants to come on and make the argument that Tareyak's making, I'm sure we can find somebody who will. Tareyak, why don't you go ahead and kick us off with your closing statement, please?
Yeah, so basically, like I said, I kind of predicted what was going to happen, but I still love the debate. I appreciate you showing up, Vybe. But yeah, like fundamentally, like we've seen with the argumentation, it basically agrees with what I'm saying, just doesn't accept the definition, I guess. And like even in terms of differentiation of like the two definitions, it seems like it's just the mirrored version of mine. Like in terms of certain aspects, like he'll admit that it's like that we're living in an illusion of democracy and there's other shit at play, but like that doesn't point to it. Like even with the whole like you have to prove it to me, but it's in a black box. So how do we prove it? And then even with the numbers that I'm showing at him and the numbers that are getting spat out, he's still kind of rejecting as well. But fundamentally, the CIA is unelected officials that subvert democracy, and that to me is the deep state. So, or at least the mechanism of it, but or enforcement wing, whatever you want to. If you go in specifics, all this kind of stuff. But other than that, pretty much like that's fundamentally my argument. I'll just end on Hail Prometheus.
Perfect. Thank you, Tareyak. And to you, Vybe.
Yeah, I definitely didn't try to shift the goalpost there at all. I will agree and concede to Tareyak that we probably do agree that a lot of the governments all over the world have done messed up things, covert actions, things that were not actually supported by the voters. That does not necessarily equate to a deep state. As I pointed out, there's a definition, and the definition is pretty stringent on that. And it is what most Americans think. When they think of a deep state, they think of a group of people. Like you kept on talking about cartoons. I think The Simpsons, and you've got the guy that's like, excellent, right? Yeah. A group of people that are sitting there going, we're controlling the world. And I don't think that actually exists. And we can even bring it down to smaller levels. I don't think there's a group in the United States that are actually doing that. I do think there's probably like 10 groups in the United States that actually are secretly doing that. And they're all fighting against each other. And it's part of just politics and things as normal. But for any like mastermind actually controlling anything, they may have succeeded on one election where they like pushed to get one guy elected and they're like, we did it. And then the next election, somebody else came in and took everything out. So I don't think there's any long-standing cabal existing on and in the United States for a long time. And I'm sure it still happens in other countries, but not that long either. I don't think there's any existing continued cabal out there at all. I didn't try to be disingenuous. I love arguing with Tareyak. I support him. You'll find me on his channel. Hopefully you'll find him on my channel. Actually, I've seen him there too. So we are friends, even though we completely disagree. I don't smoke weed. I don't know what he does, but we'll see. Anyways, it was a good debate. I definitely think I won. It was pretty easy. I appreciate the time. Looking forward to the open panel, and so happy. By the way, speaking of deep states, according to Tareyak's definition here, I think there might be a deep state on YouTube where certain people think they're controlling things that they may not actually be in control of. But that's another topic and another debate. I keep an open mind to everything. And thank you, Sara, for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you both to you, gentlemen. We'll, Tareyak, if you don't mind, we'll get through some super chats and then we'll maneuver over and I'll let you leave before the panel opens up. If you would like to join the open panel and add further to the discussion, please feel free. I've dropped the link into the chat and it is pinned at the top of the YouTube live chat. Feel free to hit it and start heading backstage. All right. Let's see. Shout out to all of the new members, XIII13, Taishira, Peter, Laura, and Michael for getting your new Mater Nation membership. Welcome to the club, my friend. Alex Kirsch Project, he sends with the big 20. He says, no vibes versus the boondock ain't prompt. Who can give the most boring opening statement ever? Oof. Shots fired. You're welcome to respond if you so choose.
Man, I apologize. It was that boring. I ran that through like 5 different people. I'll do better next time.
You gotta like mudsling and throw mud at your opponent to get it to work, I guess. All right. Alexander says, "Hey Sarah, I'll have to finish watching this tomorrow as my kids have gotten sick. Have a spectacular night." And thank you, Alexander. I hope you do feel better. Tom Carpenter says, "Clearly Vibe hasn't watched Blacklist, Blind Spot, and Person of Interest, 3 documentary series that clearly prove that deep state isn't real."
The deep state is real.
You say it's real, but it's not real?
Oh, I thought when you read it, he said clearly proves the deep state isn't real. I was saying he just said it is real.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe I misheard you.
The deep state is real.
Yeah. Well, obviously we know I don't believe in that.
Yeah, Tom says in the chat, he said it. The deep state is real. All right. And Alexander sends a big 50. P.S. Don't let this become a debate in proprietary definitions. Everyone knows what people mean by deep state. Don't choose it's all a deep state to be the debate. People using their delegated powers is not a deep state. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. If they're using their delegated powers, it's not deep state. If they elect or if they appoint somebody that does something that the elected people don't want, that's not deep state either. And that's why we have oversight committees.
Tareyak,
Yeah, just real quick on this. Just swap my headphones. Like the whole aspect of like everything being part of these or like people like using their power and all this kind of stuff. Like I said, the definition is unelected officials subverting democracy. And why is that a bad thing? Or why is why does that define deep state? It's because like it essentially renders democracy null and void. It's a pointless. That's why democracy is the illusion. You have the illusion of a vote or any concept of power. They're just subverting it.
Okay. Coco Mo says the deep state is coming for Vibe now. Silly goose.
Actually, just to comment on that one, they're not going to come for me. I've proven that they don't exist. I am their biggest fan.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Since you're like in denial that it exists, they want you marching on. They're coming for Vibe next, or
No,
not
what
Vibe.
you guys don't know is that they actually they promoted this whole thing. They called me up and they're like, "Hey, Tareyak's onto us. Can you jump on our debate and prove that we don't exist because he might actually have found us out."
I knew it was a Fed. We all have on tape now. He basically confirmed the boys. I told you. Vibe is a Fed boy.
Are you Vibe? Are you deep in the federal government, working down at the farm, and then podcasting part time? From Cash App, Thomas sent $10 just to say keep grinding. Thank you so much, Thomas. I appreciate that. And Tom Carpenter says it does get frustrating when one listens to counter arguments steeped in illogical sewage sweeping from the softness of neuronal deficits within the substantia. What is that?
Grecia of the interlocutors.
Oh. Any thoughts?
I have no clue what he means, but hey, it is what it is. Appreciate the $10.
Fair enough. Yeah. Thank you, Tom. Ioten says with a big 10, my share to support these debates. Have a lovely evening, everyone. Deep state is real. Thank you, Ioten. And Tom Carpenter says, Sarah, can you pause them for 10 minutes while I take Jax out? No? Okay, I tried. I hope you just hit pause and caught up on two times speed before you got back. Nuke says, you can't always get what you want, but if you try sometimes, you'll find you get what you need. I saw her today at the reception, a glass of wine in her hand. I knew she was gonna meet her connection. Thank you so much, Nuke. Nice little lyrical break up there. Tom Carpenter says, wait, I'm a mechanic now? The one career I didn't want. Yes, you are. You are modded in the chat. Follow the other moderators. They'll tell you exactly what to do. Daniel says, one time a guy handed me a picture and said, here's a picture of me when I was younger. Every picture of you is a picture of when you were younger. About time someone said that. Any thoughts? I think that adds to the kind of like the black box theory, right?
Kind of, but it is a true statement, you know. Every picture you take is of you younger, unless it's AI generated, but then you're not taking a picture.
That's true. That's true. Calvin says, if the deep state exists, how does it maintain or sustain its modus operandi?
Operandi.
Thank you. Mission. If its leadership is subject to be changed by any new incoming president.
So like this is a great question, and it's like an issue with this whole like every 4 years we're going to get a new guy in kind of like mentality, because what happens, even if you just take it with neighboring countries, what happens if all of a sudden Canada or Mexico goes full-blown communism? That ain't great because they're one of your neighbors. You know what I mean? So it's like, this is why I kind of pointed with the CIA. It's like, yeah, they do fucked up shit, but you don't do that fucked up shit, maybe 10 times worse fucked up shit happens kind of thing. This whole modus operandi, how they maintain it, it's like they have basically, like I said, this deep state element where it's like it could be private organizations, former military, etc., etc. And how they set up the situation is that you only have two candidates, a Republican or a Democrat. They talked about this in a previous debate, America's National Socialist, where essentially if you can get the whole party main message to be one thing, like let's say nationalism on the Republican side, and on the opposite side you have Democrats being socialist, then either way, no matter what way, who ends up representing that party, if the main message is nationalism and socialism, and all you care about is nationalist policies and socialist policies, then no matter who gets into office, you're getting your policies passed. It's just a different priority, depending on who's in. You know what I mean? You can do the same thing for, like, for example, because like Hegel would argue that the opposite or the antithesis to socialism should be capitalism, but you don't see that in the Republican Party. You see nationalism is the main thing that they want to protect the border. It's all about America first, make America great again, et cetera, et cetera. So it's like that's a certain aspect of, like, that's a certain system that you can put in place where, and again, you can do it for any political ideology, but it's just like that's a mechanism that you can enforce, that no matter who's, you technically have an option, but no matter who you put in the office is still pushing whatever agenda I want.
Yeah, I mean, the only problem with that, Tareyak, is that nationalism is something that both Democrats and Republicans have. Our current version of Republican nationalism is actually economic nationalism, and the current version that the Democrats are running on is socialist, basically personality and communication nationalism,
Yeah.
right?
If the Democrats, one sec.
By the way, there's like 15 versions
This
of
is
nationalism.
egregious. Because if the Democrats are nationalists, then why are they burning the flags? Why are they burning the American flag at these rallies?
This is, once again, where you failed in our debate, is understanding definitions, right? And like, you can't just slap social and nationalism together and say that's what America is, because you are slapping nationalists on Republicans and slapping socialists on Democrats. When Democrats are also nationalists, they're very proud of their country, but their nationalist views are different than the Republican nationalist views. Now, when we go to Yahtzee and the actual definition, that was made up, by the way. That was a marketing term. It didn't even match what they were actually doing, right? And your lack of understanding definitions is exactly why you're losing all these debates.
Like I said, like in terms of the question that's being answered, it's just like, how would the operandi work, the modus operandi, like what's the general schema of how the system runs? And I'm just giving an example of the National Socialism of how that would work. But like I said, I gave the example of our debate in National Socialism. But in terms of dynamic, like you're still not, like you're talking about like the definitions of that thing. But like I said, in terms of the general concept of nationalism, like you see in the Republican Party, America first, make America great again. whole like America should become isolationist. That's all the conversations that's happening in Republican. When you look at the Democratic Party, they're burning the American flag. Anybody who waves the American flag and has a Trump hat who's saying make America great again is a racist.
All right. From over on the green side with Rumble, Werb says with the Big Ten Vibe, when the government is able to do illegal shit and no attempt is made to punish or even find the people that committed the crimes, that is the deep state at work. That is the deep state at work. The deep state is in the open. There you go.
It is a good question too, because it really is hard to define it. Obviously, I mean, I did research. I looked at the dictionaries, multiple dictionaries, Harvard Dictionary, the Wikipedia, the Merriam's Dictionary. I looked at the history of it and looked at what the context is and what the most amount of people think of what it is today. It has multiple definitions, right? And Tareyak and I came in here. I tried to consolidate the most modern definition, and that's what I came up with. That's what I think it is. I'm going to stick to it. But I am very interested to find out what everybody else's deep state is, because I don't think deep state is just a conspiracy that was found true. Unless somebody can say, yeah, that's one that we found that was organized by the farmers. They uprose and they controlled the president.
Kobe says in the Big Five, just for me to tell you all, I love you. Thank you. And Marathon Cav 7 in the Big 20, just to show some support to Sister Sara. I love you, Kev. Thank you so kindly. Tom Carpenter says, it does not make sense to call it a deep state if there is no state, which is an organized collective. You can't define it in a way that does not include some explanation of how it's a state.
Yeah, so like in terms of this aspect of like the whole like aspect of like deep state, and then like, okay, what is even a state? Well, I'm saying that it has to be all one monolith, like that in of itself, like the Tom's point in here. It's like this aspect of like the state itself doesn't exist then. Should have been the fact that there's like the Republicans and Democrats, it all has to be one party, no? But like that's what I'm trying to point towards in terms of like the deep state, where it's like you'll have like different factions in it, but it's like they all agree that we need to subvert the democracy. We can't trust people with democracy, so we need to fix the outcome.
Yeah, and I kind of, I'm not sure if I'm reading it right, but I would say that in my definition of a deep state, the deep state itself is not a state. They're the deep controlling a state. So they're not a state themselves, but there is a state of which people are elected in, and there is a deeper group that is controlling that state. So when I say deep state, my definition of deep state, it's not a separate state outside of or below or secret of the elected state. It's a group of people running the elected state.
So collective, organized collective.
Yes. But I would consider a state a part of an elective organization, right? So as Tareyak said, and we both agree on this, a deep state would be unelected officials.
Yeah, a state would be elected officials
and
progressing
the
democracy.
Unelected officials.
Yeah, unelected officials subverting democracy. Yes.
We can agree on that.
So like when you were doing the thing of like, is Donald Trump deep state? It's like you were like trying to point to individuals. That makes no sense because the whole aspect of it being a state is that it's a collective.
Yeah, and the only reason I threw that back is because he is pushing boundaries of what we may have elected him for, right? We've got a bunch of people going, well, you're not allowed to be doing that.
Could be tyrannical, yeah. That's why South Park saying like they were doing the meme that's
unelected people doing similar things, right? And you're saying, well, that's deep state. So my point was, I think your deep state is basically people doing bad things.
The meme though in South Park is that Donald Trump is fucking Satan, as in like he's literally fucking Satan, but then he's also like having sex with Satan, and Satan's pregnant now.
Mm-hmm.
And Satan's baby is the Antichrist, so that's basically South Park saying it's like, okay, keep doing the shit that you're doing with all the Antifa and all this kind of shit. What's going to come after Trump is going to be far worse. It's going to be 10 times fucking worse. It's literally going to be the Antichrist.
Okay. Fair enough. I got you, God's favorite ant. You're good. You can turn it back off if you want. Kyle with the Big Ten says, look up the Jason group. You might learn something. What is the Jason group?
Yeah, I'm actually looking that up. I don't know that group.
It is an independent group of elite U.S. scientists that advises government on science and technology with a focus on defense and national security. Founded in 1960, they work on classified issues, often in their annual summer study, and have contributed to major breakthroughs in the electronic battlefield and the laser guide star. The name is not an acronym, but was chosen by the founder's wife. Does that sound any kind of like deep state-ish?
Vibe. Are you mute? I think you're muted.
You're
I think you
muted.
hit your button.
Sorry, my ears were off because I was reading too. I apologize. Since 1960, typical work studies, DOD. Coordination, yes. Clandestinity, some studies were classified, but the group itself had sponsors. Many outputs are public. Independence, no. Had zero decision or enforcement authority. So yeah, it fails.
Any thoughts to add to that? All right. Asvarun, I don't know if Asvarun reached out to you, Vi, but he was very interested in this conversation this evening. So hopefully he's a little off on hours for us, but hopefully he'll be able to join in. Usually it's later. Thank you, Asram. Thomas sends a Big Ten. Deep state is finding the weakness of your opponent and exploiting it. Yeah? No? Maybe?
I appreciate the meme, I guess.
Fair enough. All right. Well, Tareyak, I will let you take your leave. Thank you so much for joining this evening. I appreciate your discussion back and forth. It was a pleasure.
Thanks a minute, Sarah. Thanks, Vybe, for having the discussion, and see you later, folks.
Bye-bye, Tareyak. All right, we've got our panel hanging out backstage. I will go ahead and bring them. I'm assuming you're staying, Vybe, because I think they're all coming for you anyways.
Oh, man.
I know that I've got a handful of conspiracy theorists backstage smiling.
Yeah, I can hang out for a while. I do. My kids are now home, so I'm going to have to take care of them soon, but I'll hang as long as I can.
Sure. And then you can leave anytime you want. So, all right, let's go ahead and kick it off. All right. Hello, everybody. I believe everybody's been here before, except God's favorite ant is new, so we will grant him some patience working with either the mute button or understanding how the whole process works. Welcome, God's favorite ant. Steve, welcome back. Benjamin Balderson, welcome back. I know I've got the conspiracy theorists in the house. 10th man, I'm not sure where you stand on this, but it'll be interesting nonetheless.
I'm so angry at Vybe right now. I'm flabbergasted.
All right, they're all coming for you, Vybe. I believe Clay was the first one hanging out backstage. If you want to kick us off with some thought process here, and as a kind reminder to everyone in the chat, the gauntlet is officially open. I will drop the link here shortly, and we will raid on over and move on the show.
Sure. Yeah, I appreciate it. So yeah, I had some questions for Vybe, so that's great. So to me, it's a real simple definition. The allowance of corruption, right? The deep state is something where essentially those in government allow corruption to continue. So even with your understanding, let's just take your understanding of the deep state, and also let's take the understanding that let's grant you that the U.S. has no deep state. Would you concede that there are deep state entities within other governments?
So, I mean, part of my criteria is that James Bond villain that is like running the world with like we have this secret faction that's controlling everything, and we're controlling the politics in France. We're controlling the politics in the United States. We're defining how the world's going to operate. So in that particular sense, no, I wouldn't concede. But I can concede to exactly what you said, in the sense that, I mean, we've definitely seen, and one of my criteria was lasting across multiple governments, meaning that multiple officials were elected, but never were in control. And we have seen this in some Saudi nations and some South American nations, where for like a decade or more, there was the powerful in control of who was getting elected and controlling those things. I would actually kind of consider that a deep state, but it got overthrown. And I have conceded on that, in the sense that I know that has happened and it actually exists. But I also, the reason I have not concede on that is that we're getting better at shutting those things down and discovering them. However, to Tareyak's defense, the CIA has even been responsible for some of those, right?
Absolutely.
And I know they have happened. And granted, we had senators that knew they were happening, but were closing their eyes. I concede to that too. But as far as like this global conspiracy that there's like this elite power controlling the world, that's what I consider the deep state. If we want to make different levels of deep state and like come up with different definitions, I actually thought I was pretty granting with mine, given the global consensus of it. But yeah, we could come up with like tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4. I might not agree with tier 1, tier 2, but I might agree with tier 3 and 4 or 5.
Okay. Yeah. So see, I have a problem with your definition, because, you know, we have to ground it, right, in reality, right? And so if you're talking about a James Bond villain type, or, you know, an oligarchy that, you know, sits in Geneva and does the no, it's not what we're talking about, because that's not grounded in reality. We're talking about something that that has to be realistic. And so if you want to continue to give your cartoonish definition, no offense, that's on you to do that. But I would say most of the population does try to give it a realistic definition.
Okay, so let's allow me to do one more thing, Vybe. If you're watching over on the Raging Tomato side, I'm officially removing that one, shutting it down. Either hit the link in the chat or follow the raid over to the Gauntlet. Thank you. Go back to you, Vybe.